Chapter 2004. The man looked to be in his 30s and carried a large saber on his back. He had a heroic appearance and a somewhat arrogant look on his face. After looking around, his gaze fell on Yi Shiwen and the other two. He was born to be a leader and was also an expert at the peak of the profound death realm. Apart from the mythical figures who appeared and disappeared unpredictably, experts at the peak of the profound death realm were the ones who truly controlled most of the matters in the Shin world. For mythical figures, time was precious. Every minute and second was extremely important for them to prove their Tao. How could they waste their time on trivial matters like managing daily affairs? Apart from a small number of Lone Rangers or the younger generation who were still growing, such figures were often people who held great power in their hands. Naturally, they were awe-inspiring. Big Brother Yi. When Yunro saw Yi Shiwen, she couldn't help but reveal a cheerful smile. She was like a little princess to begin with. She wasn't very shrewd. Seeing Yunro's attitude, a stern look flashed across the man's eyes. Yi Shiwen was very keen. Even if this fierce and hostile look only flashed by, he still noticed it. However, he remained calm and collected and didn't expose it on the spot, although he didn't know where the source of the hostility came from. However, there was no need to expose it on the spot and make things difficult for Bai Jiansheng. Haha, I seem to have grown taller again, Yi Shiwen said while laughing. This made Yunro a little embarrassed. She looked at Yi Shiwen reproachfully. What did he mean? What did he mean by growing taller again? How could she naturally grow taller at her age? He was clearly teasing her and making fun of her childish personality. Yi Shan and Bai Jiansheng also couldn't help but laugh. At this moment, the man who was quietly left aside by Yi Shiwen finally couldn't help but say, Yunro, aren't you going to introduce us? Who is this person? He looked directly at Yi Shiwen. There was a bit of fierceness and oppression in his eyes. Brother Yi, let me introduce you. This is the current pavilion master of the immeasurable saber pavilion, Bu Hao Miao. Bai Jiansheng saw that the atmosphere wasn't right and quickly introduced. Pavilion Master Bu, this is my classmate from the Nameless Tao Academy, Yi Shiwen. He is also one of the most outstanding geniuses of our human race. Yi Shiwen secretly thought that this Bu Hao Miao was really a person who held great power in his hands. He wasn't very clear about what kind of force this limitless blade pavilion was, but considering his strength and the fact that he was able to reach the level of a sect master, it could be assumed that this sect wouldn't be bad. In fact, it might be much stronger than the floating mountain that he had encountered before. Bu Hao Miao's sword-like brows slightly raised as he couldn't help but say, Bai Jiansheng, didn't we say that we wouldn't bring any newcomers before we came here? The place we're going to this time is so dangerous. If we're not careful, we'll all die. Where would we have the time to bring newbies? Yunro couldn't help but say, Bu Hao Miao, you don't have to worry about this. My big brother Yi is very strong, and he isn't even weaker than young Master Gui Yun. He won't be a burden. In fact, she felt a little guilty. Speaking of which, was there anyone who was more of a burden than her and Yi Shan? It was just that this team was originally organized by Bai Jiansheng. In addition, they also came here because of Bai Jiansheng's reputation, so they had to give him face. She didn't know whether Yi Shiwen was a match for young Master Gui Yun or not, but it wasn't wrong to mention it. She couldn't let this slightly annoying Bu Hao Miao see her big brother, Yi clearly. Compared to Yi Shiwen, he was nothing. Yi Shiwen had gone through fire and water with them several times, and even saved them many times. Compared to Yi Shiwen, Bu Hao Miao was not comparable at all. Young Master Gui Yin? Bu Hao Miao's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Young Master Gui Yun's name was something that even a big shot like him had heard of. Among the younger generation, young Master Gui Yun was naturally an outstanding talent. Extraordinary. Since when could Yi Shiwen be on par with young Master Gui Yun? In fact, from the moment Bai Jiansheng introduced Yi Shiwen, he already knew who Yi Shiwen was. After all, Yi Shiwen had killed an expert at the peak of Profound Realm, which had caused a sensation among many people. However, he was only a little surprised and didn't feel much about it. What was a killer at the peak of Profound Death Realm? In a head-on battle, that killer could kill him with one hand. This little achievement was nothing in front of a big shot like him, who had been running wild for many years. Not to mention that Yi Shiwen had not yet stepped into the peak of profound death realm. Even if Yi Shiwen had, the gap between them was still huge. Was his thousands of years of cultivation fake? Moreover, being able to step into the peak of profound death realm didn't mean that he could break into the legend realm. He had already stepped into the peak of profound death realm thousands of years ago, but in the end he was still stuck here. The Infinite Saber Pavilion might have some reputation in the Xian world, but in the end there was still a huge gap between them and those giants. In fact, they didn't even have a complete record of breaking through to the Paoang realm. Compared to martial techniques, the experience left behind during a breakthrough was actually more valuable. This was the fundamental reason why a sect could continuously produce stronger experts. However, their Infinite Saber Pavilion didn't have any legendary experts. Naturally, they didn't have any experience. He also didn't have any seniors who could guide him into the Paoang realm. He didn't have the qualifications to lead the Divine Union's generation thousands of years ago. Although he had already cultivated to the peak of profound death realm, he was getting further and further away from them. However, there were many people in that generation who didn't break into the Paoang realm, so it wasn't a big deal. Therefore, in his opinion, Yi Shiwen was nothing. By Jiansheng, I have to criticize you on this point. As the saying goes, one is marked by the company one keeps. If you can't choose a good friend, you will definitely be burdened by it in the future. As he spoke, he glanced at Yi Shiwen. As for who he was talking about, it was already very clear. Bai Jianxing frowned and looked a little unhappy. Logically speaking, this Infinite Saber Pavilion master wasn't someone who didn't know how to behave. Why was he so picky and unscrupulously criticizing Yi Shiwen? However, he looked at Yi Shiwen, who seemed to be calm and composed, and wasn't bothered by these words. Bu Hao Miao, if you really think that our team isn't good, you can just leave. We're not begging you. Yun Ro immediately exploded. Bu Hao Miao's arrival had made her feel that this was wrong, and that was wrong. She had originally had a good impression of him, but now it had been wiped clean. Bu Hao Miao's eyes suddenly emitted an astonishing radiance. However, it was restrained in an instant. He was about to speak. Suddenly, the space in the void rippled like the surface of water. Then, a huge hole was suddenly torn open and a figure leapt out from it. Yi Shiwen fixed his eyes on it and saw that it was a woman in a simple and unadorned robe. A pair of wings unfolded behind her, and she flew over. Her long silver-gray hair was like mercury, and it draped over her shoulders. Her skin was as white as snow, and it even had a sickly white complexion. There was a smile on her exquisite facial features. Fallen Angel Tribe. Yi Shiwen immediately recognized the identity of this woman's tribe. In fact, it wasn't the first time that he had dealt with the Fallen Angel Tribe. In fact, it wasn't the first time that he had traveled in the Devil World disguised as a Fallen Angel Tribe member. There was a slight surprise in his eyes. However, he didn't find it strange. The Xian world was like a melting pot, and all kinds of bloodlines converged. Moreover, the powerhouses of various races would come here from time to time. So, it wasn't strange to see all kinds of races. Elder Sister Mei Yun Ro's face changed into a cheerful smile when she saw the person who had arrived. When did you arrive? I came a long time ago. I just want to scout the path first and killed a few tree spirits. I thought that you guys should be here soon. Sure enough, when I came back to take a look, you guys were already here. Mayer's face revealed a smile. She chuckled and looked around like the wind. Yi Shiwen felt an unprecedented pressure from Mayer's body. It was a kind of pressure that came from the soul. That faint pressure made him immediately understand that Mayer's strength was probably extremely strong. She was only a step away from the Paoang realm. Her body had probably already begun to produce divinity. That was why she could give him such pressure. However, the real elemental energy in his body circulated once, and this kind of pressure disappeared without a trace in an instant. He looked left and right again, and no one could feel it. It was as if he was the only one who could feel this pressure. However, the woman was a little surprised when she saw Yi Shiwen's reaction. She was quite surprised. She had already restrained herself quite well, but she didn't expect that someone would still be able to detect it. However, This wasn't something that an ordinary person could detect. This person wasn't simple either. When she heard Bai Jianxing introduce Yi Shiwen's name, her eyes lit up. There was a hint of meaning in her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. This made Bu Haomiao even more depressed. Although the Infinite Blade Pavilion wasn't a top sect, it wasn't a nameless sect. However, Yin Ro was rude to him first, and didn't even look at him. He couldn't help but feel quite frustrated. And this was all brought by Yi Shiwen. He was just a country bumpkin from a small world. Was there a need to be like this? However, he immediately thought of a figure. Xin Xiang, when that person arrives, I'll see if you can still maintain this calmness. Speak of the devil. Suddenly, another two figures broke through the vast sky on the spot, bringing with them an astonishing aura. They instantly appeared in front of everyone. Their speed was extremely fast, and along with their arrival, the sky was also split into many cracks. Chapter 2005. It was another two existences at the peak of the profound death realm. Both of them had extraordinary auras. One of them was handsome and looked to be in his 30s. His aura was somewhat similar to Bu Haomiao's. However, his aura was even better. He was also a big shot who held great power. The other person's entire body was covered with scales. There was a faint dragon aura on his body. Sub-dragon species. Yi Shiwen immediately determined that dragons were lustful by nature. They had sown seeds all over the world. As a result, these sub-dragon species could be seen everywhere. Especially after entering the ancient desolate era. They had seen too many of these sub-dragon species. Therefore, it wasn't strange. Sub-dragon species could cultivate to this level. There was no doubt that they were also experts. Who was this person? The newcomer glanced around and only found Yi Shiwen, an outsider. He spoke in a rather unfriendly tone. He looked rather displeased. Brother Sidhu, I'm afraid that you don't know. This is the famous Yi Shiwen. Bu Haomiao spoke at this time. He emphasized the word famous. There was a faint smile on his face. It seemed as if he wanted to see Yi Shiwen make a fool of himself. A sharp light flashed in Yi Shiwen's eyes. However, he concealed it very quickly. However, his heart wasn't so calm. He didn't want to embarrass Bai Jianxing. Therefore, he had endured until now. He didn't fall out with Bai Jianxing. However, Bu Haomiao was constantly looking for trouble with him. It seemed that it was impossible for him to have a good time. He had never been lenient towards those who were hostile towards him and thought of ways to cause trouble for him. Bu Haomiao was even more startled and angry. He had clearly felt the existence of a killing intention from Yi Shiwen's body. Yi Shiwen had wanted to kill him even if it was only for a split second. However, Bu Haomiao couldn't be mistaken. Yi Shiwen had concealed it very quickly. However, he hadn't intended to conceal it at all. It was obvious that Yi Shiwen had targeted him. With his magnanimity, how could he not be shocked and angry? With his strength and status, unless it was a demigod mythical expert, no one would dare to say that they could deal with him steadily. This change was also noticed by the others. Immediately, the atmosphere became subtle. From the start, it was obvious that they were going to treat each other with hostility. At this time, Bai Jianxing promptly said, Yi Shiwen, let me introduce you. This is the Lord of Heaven's will sect, Situ Nantian. He can be considered as a senior figure. And this brother is Longjinbei. He has been famous for many years. At this time, he also began to have a headache. He did not expect that these two groups of people would not see eye to eye with each other. Finding these two groups of people was probably his biggest mistake this time. Even if he only found one group, it would be good. Originally, he wanted to act as a lubricant so that the two of them could quickly familiarize themselves with each other. Who knew that for some reason, the two of them would directly fight each other the first time they met, as if there was some deep hatred between them. Brother Yi, these people are considered to be famous figures in the Xian world. Their origins are not small, and their strength is also high. If it is not necessary, it is better not to offend them. At this time, Bai Jianxing hurriedly transmitted his voice to Yi Shiwen to appease him. He had seen Yi Shiwen's temper. In the past, when Yi Shiwen's strength was far inferior to young Master Go's fortune, he would rather break than bend. Such a person would be more difficult to make him suffer. I also don't want to cause trouble. I will give Brother Bai face. As long as they do not provoke me, I will definitely not provoke them. Yi Shiwen pondered for a moment and said. He also did not want to cause trouble here and embarrassed by Jianxing. Thank you, Brother Yi. This is Yi Shiwen, my classmate. He is strong and talented. His future is limitless. Bai Jianxing continued to introduce him calmly on the surface. This time I asked him to come because I hope that one more person will be more powerful. After all, no one knows what will happen in Ancestor Tree's domain. Bai Jianxing's reason was upright. Even Bu Haomiao, who had long been dissatisfied, could not act up. Situ Nantian glanced at Yi Shiwen and said, although I do not have high hopes for his strength, since he is someone you brought in, I will give you face this time, with his identity as a sect leader. If it was not for Bai Jianxing's limitless future, it would be impossible for him to join this team. However, more importantly, there were already many experts present. No matter how weak Yi Shiwen's strength was, he was still in the late profound death realm. He was much stronger than Yi Shan and Yin Ro, who had just entered the profound death realm. Thinking of this, how could he not be calculative? Brother Situ, don't underestimate him. In the beginning, he claimed that he did not even care about young Master Go's fortune. Situ Haomiao said faintly and glanced at Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's face immediately showed a hint of anger. A dignified sect leader was actually so inconsiderate. Moreover, there was no enmity between them. Did he not understand the principle of having more friends means more opportunities? He did not even care about young Master Go's fortune? So impressive? The Go's Fortune clan is mysterious. Even I feel that it is very troublesome to deal with. He has not grown up yet, but even so, he is very difficult to deal with. You actually claim that you did not care about him? I do not believe it. These days, there are many people who boast. Long Jinbei suddenly opened his mouth and said with an ugly smile. It was a little ferocious and a little terrifying. Under the sunlight, the scales seemed to be emitting a dazzling light. Since Brother Long does not believe it, you can give it a try. Bu Haomiao continued to provoke. On the other hand, Mayer looked at Yi Shiwen meaningfully, but did not say anything. At this moment, Bai Jianxing's face also showed a hint of anger. He was the one who found Yi Shiwen. No matter what, Yi Shiwen was a member of this team. Situ Nantian gave him face and did not say anything. However, this Bu Haomiao actually tried to provoke him again and again. It seemed like he wanted to start a fight. How could he, a member of this organization, look good? That's true. Whether he has the strength or not, we will know after we try. Long Jinbei glanced at Yi Shiwen with a rather unfriendly look. It seemed like he did not believe that Yi Shiwen could be compared to young Master Go's fortune. Yi Shiwen took a deep breath and said, since everyone wants to teach me, then come. However, don't cry when you lose. He was very clear that no matter what, it was still because his realm was not enough. If he was at the peak of the profound death realm, why would these people have any objections just because he had an expert helping him? At this time, he was afraid that he could not pretend to be deaf and mute. How dare you? Long Jinbei took a step forward, and the aura of his whole body swept over like a mighty wave. His aura instantly locked onto Yi Shiwen. I want to see how strong you are. You actually dare to talk to me like this. Long Jinbei smiled ferociously. He was also infuriated by Yi Shiwen's attitude. He instantly grabbed out with his claw. Suddenly, countless dragon auras spread out and almost spread into the country of the Lesser Dragon Tribe. Because he was not a purebred dragon tribe, he could only do this. The country of the Lesser Dragon Tribe immediately shrouded Yi Shiwen. The entire world crushed all the laws. This was the genuine Dragon Claw. It was very shocking that he could use the innate magical power of the Dragon Tribe to such an extent. You better put in more effort if you want to test my strength. Just this Dragon Claw is not enough. Yi Shiwen didn't show any fear in the face of the unpredictable Dragon Claw. On the contrary, he took a step forward, and his figure tore out endless golden light. Then he clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and instantly blasted out a monstrous golden wave. It directly transformed into a universe, and countless light spots erupted with unimaginable power. All of this energy shrouded Yi Shiwen's body and transformed into a monstrous fist energy. Just one punch of his had blasted out an unimaginably terrifying power. Bang! The kingdom of the lesser dragon race was crushed in an instant. The dragon claw was like a fleeting cloud under the crushing might of Yi Shiwen's fist energy. After his cultivation had climbed to the peak of the late profound death realm, his strength had undergone another earth-shattering change. It could even be said that he had advanced to the next level. The power of this punch had surpassed that of an ordinary expert at the peak of the profound death realm. He did not have the support of the 5 emperors. Otherwise, the power of this punch would be even more shocking. How can it be so strong? This fist energy. Long Jinbei retreated again and again. He grabbed a few rays of light in succession, which transformed into a few divine dragons, and protected him within them. Yi Shiwen's fist energy had been completely consumed by them. Just now, he had only casually attacked and did not use his full strength. Who knew that he would be caught unprepared by Yi Shiwen's counterattack? Normally, an expert at the late profound death realm would have to use his full strength to block even a casual attack from an expert of his level. Moreover, it was only a block, even though he knew that Yi Shiwen had casually launched an astonishing counterattack. Yi Shiwen had caught him unprepared. 8 groups of heavenly dragons. It is said that the shadow of the 8 groups of heavenly dragons is the 9-clawed divine dragon that was created by the ancestral dragon. Once this move is unleashed, one is practically invincible. Bai Jinxing said in shock, this kind of absolute art is not something that everyone from the Dragon Island can learn. This Long Jintian only has a bit of the Dragon clan's bloodline. Where did he learn such a pure martial art? Not only that, this is a move that combines both attack and defense. Just wait and see. Long Jintian's attack will not end so easily. Situ Nantian said, Brat, you have some tricks up your sleeve. However, that is all. You are still a few thousand years too early to defeat me. Long Jintian sneered as he bellowed. Boundless sound waves swept out as a vast and mighty might swept out. Chapter 2006. Waves of dragon might swept out mightily, carrying with it an endless amount of dragon chi, directly blasting out a vast country of the dragon race. Countless kinds of strange dragon race lived in it. The laws of the entire sky were about to change, becoming an environment suitable for the survival of the dragon race, directly descending. The power of this attack was more than a little stronger than before. Previously, it was just a casual attack. Now it was an all-out attack, as if it was really going to beat Yi Shiwen to death. Yi Shiwen was not to be outdone. He roared, What 8 groups of heavenly dragons? What the hell is this? Break it all! As he shouted, the power of the 5 elements began to condense crazily around his body, and the 5 emperors were added to his body. His power instantly soared to a whole new level, and he could actually contend with him. He took a step forward, and the power of the 5 elements integrated into his fist. It was completely blasted out by his fist and completely dispersed in the void. After that, it blasted towards the incomparably huge Dragon Kingdom. Rumble! The Dragon Kingdom disintegrated on the spot. It could not threaten Yi Shiwen's power of the 5 elements at all. The power of the Dragon Clan was nothing in front of his power of the 5 elements. If it wasn't for the fact that the Wood Emperor's belt had yet to condense, the power would probably be even stronger. Yi Shiwen was unforgiving. His power was boundless, and he directly attacked Long Jinbei on the spot. His attack was complemented with the laws, and it was untraceable like an antelope hanging its horn. It instantly arrived in front of Long Jinbei. What a fast punch! This time, even Situ Nantian was shocked. He did not expect that he could not capture the trajectory of Yi Shiwen's punch at all. That punch was clearly right in front of him, but he just couldn't catch its trajectory. This feeling made him feel really uncomfortable. So strong. Brother Yi is even stronger than before. Yunro and Yishan were extremely shocked. They could not capture it better than the others present. They could only intuitively feel that Yi Shiwen was tyrannical, extremely tyrannical. Compared to before, he was much more tyrannical. Whoosh! Yi Shiwen's fist energy had already arrived in front of Long Jinbei, in an instant. What a powerful fist technique. Long Jinbei kept retreating. He wanted to evade Yi Shiwen's attack, but at the same time, he was extremely shocked. Yi Shiwen's fist technique was much more terrifying than he had imagined. Even he didn't expect Yi Shiwen's fist technique to be so terrifying. The 8 groups of heavenly dragons instantly surrounded him. At this critical moment, he did not panic at all as he displayed the elegance of a peak profound death stage expert. One after another, dragons soared into the sky. Boundless mystical abilities swept out. What the hell? 8 division of heavenly beings? Break for me! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, and the boundless Zhen Yuan directly surged out of his body. The mighty power was simply amazing. How is this possible? This power is practically comparable to the peak of the profound death stage. Bu Haomiao was incomparably shocked. What a frightening power. I'm afraid that even some peak profound death stage experts do not possess such a powerful martial power. Just what is his physical body made of? How is it able to contain such frightening martial power? Sita Nantian was also shocked. Originally, he didn't take Yi Shiwen seriously. If a late profound death stage kid wanted to be on equal footing with him, then he would wait until he reached the peak profound death stage. Moreover, it was hard to say whether Yi Shiwen could escape from the Divine Alliance and the Heaven Wasteland Palace. However, he didn't expect that although Yi Shiwen was only at the late profound death stage, he could continuously force Long Jintian, who was at the peak profound death stage, to such an extent. It was simply unimaginable. If word of this got out, it would scare a bunch of people to death. For this person to be specially recruited by the nameless Tao Academy, he indeed had some skills and was not to be trifled with. However, only Bai Jianxing knew that Yi Shiwen probably hadn't used his full strength. At the very least, he hadn't seen Yi Shiwen use some of the trump cards he had seen in the past. This was enough. Rumble. Following Yi Shiwen's mighty attack, the boundless power of the entire sky began to be used by him. The incomparably mighty power directly shattered the vault of heaven and ruthlessly smashed the body of the 8 groups of heavenly dragons. Bang! Long Jinbei immediately let out a muffled groan. Under the incomparably shocked gazes of the crowd, his entire body was sent flying like a cannonball. A mouthful of dragon blood spurted out and directly corroded the sky. Bang! His entire body crashed into a mountain in the distance before rolling down. It was simply unimaginable. Everyone looked at him dumbfoundedly and didn't know what to say. In the past, even if Yi Shiwen used the 5 emperors, he was only on par with Long Jinbei. If he wanted to defeat Long Jinbei so easily, he would have to fuse with his martial arts embodiment. However, things were different now. As his own cultivation had reached the peak profound death stage, he naturally couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as before. The same fist technique could unleash extraordinary power. This was where his true confidence came from. Coupled with the addition of 2 martial arts embodiments, there was no one he couldn't deal with unless he encountered someone in the myth realm. This was where his true confidence came from. It was also the real reason why he dared to follow Bai Jianxing here. Although he was only at the profound death stage, who would have thought that he had already set his sights on the Paoang realm? It was likely that no one would dare to think so. As he stepped into the profound death stage, he truly had the qualifications to sweep across the peak profound death stage. Although these people were all sect leaders, he still didn't care about them. He didn't want to casually attract trouble, but it wasn't because he was afraid of it. This time, he was determined to obtain the ancestral tree's heart. Seeing that Yi Shiwen actually wanted to kill them all, Bai Jianxing finally spoke at this moment. Brother Yi, please show mercy. They were all invited by him. Although he was also annoyed that these people didn't give him face, he couldn't just watch Long Jinbei get killed. At least not to that extent. Such a powerful cultivation. Mei couldn't help but praise him. Although her name was Mei, she was cold and aloof like the other members of the Fallen Angel clan. It wasn't easy for her to open her mouth and praise him. This is great. We have another powerful helper this time. This is also good. We have a bit more assurance. In short, let's snatch the ancestral tree's heart first. Mei enunciated each word like an orchid. However, There was only a bit of praise in her tone. It seemed as if she was merely appreciating him. She wasn't really that shocked. Yi Xuan secretly thought, it seems that she has some trump card. She's confident that she can restrain me. However, it didn't matter to him. Everyone thought that he had already used his full strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to defeat Long Jinbei so easily. Who would have thought that he hadn't used his full strength? Moreover, he was still far from it. Therefore, he wasn't anxious even though he had attacked first. It seemed as if his strength had been seen through by others. Long Jinbei crawled out from afar. He had a malevolent look on his face as he loudly roared, Yi Xuan, come on, let's fight for another 300 rounds. His expression was exceptionally malevolent. It was obvious that he wasn't reconciled to the fact that he had been defeated so easily by Yi Xuan. The consummate skill that he had relied on to become famous for couldn't withstand a single blow from Yi Xuan. Come on then, what's there to be afraid of? Yi Xuan sneered. He wouldn't have been able to stand up if Bai Jianxing hadn't mediated the fight a moment ago. Are you done? Sita Nantian shouted. We're going to look for the ancestral tree's heart this time. Do you think that we're going to let you fight? You don't care about the overall situation. Sita Nantian coldly berated Long Jinbei. It seemed as if he was berating Long Jinbei. However, he was secretly criticizing Yi Xuan for not caring about the overall situation. Everyone present was smart. So, how could they not understand what he meant? Bai Jianxing already had an incomparable headache. It seemed that the conflict between the two sides wouldn't be resolved. It seemed that Situ Nantian, Long Jinbei, and Bu Haomiao were going to lean towards each other. However, Meyer seemed to be neutral. So, what should he do? That's right. They don't care about the overall situation at all. We're going to be in great danger this time. So, we need to cooperate sincerely. Unfortunately, some people are still trying to sow discord. What a good plan. Yi Xuan immediately followed up with his words. He didn't intend to tolerate it at all. Instead of harboring ulterior motives, why don't we fight first and determine the winner? He could see that Bu Haomiao wasn't an ordinary sinister villain. As the leader of a faction, he actually had no tolerance. It was simply unimaginable how the two sides would work together. Yi Xuan didn't dare to entrust his back to such a guy. It was best to get rid of such an uncertain explosive point in advance. Anyway, it didn't matter to him. He wasn't afraid of a godlike opponent. He was afraid of a pig-like teammate. Yi Xuan faintly exuded an imposing aura from his body as he spoke. He directly pressed towards Bu Haomiao with the intention of fighting to the death with him. Bu Haomiao's complexion changed drastically. It wasn't the same as a moment ago. In his eyes, Yi Xuan was just a guy who could be casually taught a lesson a moment ago. But now, Yi Xuan had displayed such tyrannical strength in one go. It was really unexpected. Yi Xuan wasn't a guy who could be easily bullied. It was very tricky. If Yi Xuan targeted him at this time, then things would become very troublesome later on. Yi Xuan, what are you trying to do? Don't tell me that you want to fight among yourselves before we even start. Everyone, can you tolerate this guy being so arrogant? Bu Haomiao said in a loud voice. He wanted to draw Long Jinbei and Situ Nantian to his side. You don't need to put on a big hat. Long Jinbei, and I wouldn't have had to fight if it wasn't for you. Do you still think that you're innocent? Yi Xuan narrowed his eyes. His killing intent intensified. Chapter 2007. He wouldn't be at ease if he couldn't get rid of this nail. The atmosphere on both sides suddenly became heavy. Both sides were on the verge of breaking out into a war. Anyway, everyone, please give me some face today. We came here mainly for the ancestor tree's heart. Wouldn't we be benefiting others if we were to have internal strife here? Bai Jianxing stood up and said, if they didn't handle it well, perhaps there would be internal strife. This matter had not been settled yet, but it had already cast a shadow over them. In that case, I will give brother Bai some face. However, don't blame me if he provokes us again. Yi Xuan glanced coldly at Bu Haomiao and said indifferently. He wasn't afraid even if he had to fight with these three people at the same time. Bu Haomiao just looked at Yi Xuan coldly at this time. He didn't act up, but he didn't have much confidence in dealing with Yi Xuan. His eyes were constantly flickering, and no one knew what he was thinking. However, Since Bai Jianxing had come forward, everyone suppressed the conflict reluctantly. As for what everyone was thinking in their hearts, only they would know. However, since everyone had already decided, they wouldn't delay. On the contrary, their speed was still quite fast, and they swept straight towards the ancestor tree's domain. Brother Yi, I'm sorry this time. I've caused you trouble. Bai Jianxing apologized. It's nothing. Yi Shiwen smiled and shook his head. He was also very clear that no one could control this kind of thing. However, Brother Ye's progress during this time is really exaggerated. That Long Jinbei isn't an ordinary person, but he was actually beaten up by you without any strength to fight back. Bai Jianxing couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Long Jinbei's strength was naturally extremely strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited Long Jinbei to come together. However, he couldn't gain any advantage from Yi Shiwen. One could imagine how strong Yi Shiwen was. Yi Shiwen secretly thought that this trip to the ancestor tree's domain was extremely dangerous. He had to deal with an old legendary master. However, no matter how old he was still a legendary figure. There was no need to mention such danger. This task is very difficult to complete. However, there is only one ancestor tree's heart. How are we going to divide it? Yi Shiwen finally asked this question. This mission is naturally very difficult to complete. However, although our biggest goal this time is the ancestral tree's heart, it is not our only goal. You must know that there are too many people eyeing the ancestral tree's heart, and there may even be legendary figures. If that happens, how can we contend against them? Therefore, our goal is the other treasures. If we obtain some treasures, it will be enough to break through the shackles and allow us to make a huge breakthrough in one go. Bai Jianxing said, this was more practical. Of course, our main goal is still the heart of the ancestor tree. If we can get the heart of the ancestor tree, we can even reach the Paolong state in a short period of time. Bai Jianxing's tone was filled with endless confidence. Even for ordinary martial artists, the Paolong realm was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. To him, it was only a matter of time. Hence, it was only a matter of time. Because of this, he wanted to obtain the ancestor tree's heart even more. For an ordinary warrior, the ancestor tree's heart was almost invincible. Therefore, it was only a matter of time for him to break through. Because of this, he wanted to obtain the ancestor tree's heart even more. Based on his situation, he was almost invincible compared to those in the same realm. Because of this, it was many times more difficult for him to advance compared to ordinary people. Because of this, he wanted to obtain the ancestor tree's heart even more. Given his situation, he was almost invincible compared to others in the same realm. Therefore, it was many times more difficult for him to break through than ordinary people. Without the help of the ancestor tree's heart, it would be much more difficult for him to break through to the ancestor tree's heart. Brother Sidhu, Yi Shiwen is ferocious and barbaric. However, he is also very strong. I'm afraid that we can't suppress him with our individual strength. In fact, we might be plotted against by him behind our backs. Bu Haomiao continued. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No matter how strong he is, he can't be stronger than me. I've almost reached the Paolong realm. If he dares to attack me, I can easily kill him. Moreover, didn't he offend the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace? Humph! It's hard to say if he can walk out alive. Situ Nantian said indifferently. Is Brother Sidhu talking about the Heaven Wasteland battle team? Bu Haomiao's voice suddenly rang out. I remember now. Someone from the Heaven Wasteland battle team also entered the ancestor tree domain this time. They're a bunch of freaks. If they knew that Yi Shiwen was here, they wouldn't let it go. I'd like to see what he's capable of. Long Jinbei said coldly. Yes, after the Heaven Wasteland battle team kills him, we can even get a reward from the Heaven Wasteland Palace. Humph! At that time, even if we can't get the ancestor tree's heart, we'll still have a chance to step into the Paolong realm. At that time, we'll all become big shots in the mysterious world. We'll be omnipotent. Siddhanantayan said calmly. He had already planned everything out. Brother Situ is wise. Bu Haomiao said. Since he already had a plan, he didn't need to rush to deal with Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen actually wanted to kill him, which made him both shocked and angry. He was simply too audacious. Mei and Yun Ro, on the other hand, were chatting passionately with each other. The two beauties giggled, attracting the gazes of many men present. Everyone rushed to the ancestor tree domain. Yun Ro, who was the lowest among them, had already stepped into the profound death realm. Her speed was naturally not slow, and they soon broke into the ancestor tree domain. As soon as they entered the ancestor tree domain, they immediately felt the boundless would attribute laws mixed with spiritual qi. It directly swept over, forming waves of spiritual qi. However, no one dared to casually absorb it into their body. The spiritual qi contained countless would attribute spiritual qi, which would directly attack the meridians of the body. If they were not careful, they would explode on the spot. It was extremely dangerous. Everyone activated their true qi to protect themselves, isolating themselves from the spiritual qi. It would take a long time to purify the spiritual qi if they wanted to absorb the pure wood attribute laws. The gains did not make up for the losses. This was a specially created heaven for the wood attribute martial artists. Unless they specialized in this attribute martial arts, they would be restricted and unable to move an inch. This was a country of the wood spirit. Yi Shiwen had just entered the ancestor tree's world, and he saw countless wood-attributed creatures inside. They had formed various sects and even kingdoms. It looked just like the outside world. There were even existences in the profound life realm and profound death realm. After hundreds of thousands of years of operation by the ancestor tree, the strength of the ancestor tree domain was not much worse than the Heaven Desolate Palace and other giants, if not including the mythical experts. If they came out in full force, the entire Xian world would be in chaos. The wood elemental qi whipped up a series of incomparably huge storms that wreaked havoc and swept over. Within these windstorms, there were many powerful wood demons wreaking havoc. Each of these windstorms contained a kingdom of wood demons. However, the only thing worth rejoicing was that there were no mythical figures. Except for the ancestor tree, there were no other mythical figures. It seemed that the ancestor tree had absorbed the essence of the entire world and could not tolerate the birth of a second mythical figure. Otherwise, even if the ancestor tree had fallen, no one would dare to come to the ancestor tree domain. These people did not restrain their aura. As soon as they entered, they were immediately discovered by a storm. Like a pack of wolves smelling blood, it directly chased in the direction of Yi Shiwen and the others. The sky was filled with wood demons, and they charged straight at Ji Hao. Yi Shiwen's expression was solemn. Although these wood demons were not as powerful as any one of these people, their numbers were terrifying. It was no wonder that the Xian world battlefield was the most dangerous and terrifying place in the entire Xian world. No one knew what kind of existences there were. Just the ancestor tree domain alone contained such a powerful force. If all the worlds in the Xian world battlefield came out in full force, the entire Xian world would be turned upside down. Rumble! The entire world was filled with huge roars, making it impossible to hear other sounds. The roars of countless wood demons were mixed in the storm, making it impossible to hear them clearly. The first to arrive was a type of mystical bird whose entire body was made up of divine wood. Each and every one of them was incomparably huge. They were like a swarm of locusts, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. These wood demon birds were emerald green, covering the sky and covering the earth. They were all existences of the king grade, and they jointly launched a wood attribute magical ability. For a time, the whole world was filled with trees growing frantically, forming a huge tree domain. In this forest, countless trees turned into all sorts of weapons and rushed towards the group of people. However, these people were not ordinary. Each of them had extraordinary strength. Although the number of these wood demon birds was huge, there was still a huge gap between them and Yi Shiwen and the others in terms of strength. Yi Shiwen wasn't polite at all. He took a step forward on the spot, and a boundless wave of flames suddenly appeared under his feet and spread out. In the blink of an eye, thousands of wood demon birds were burned to death by him. These wood demon birds didn't go to waste after they were burned to death. Their wood attribute power was completely absorbed by Yi Shiwen's body, and then it was completely absorbed by the 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram. Chapter 2008. The wood attribute power was absorbed by his 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram, and it began to condense into the wood emperor belt. Although it was still a long way from condensing the wood emperor belt, it was a start. However, it was like a drop in the bucket. Yi Shiwen wanted to condense the 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram now. No matter how many celestial realm wood demons he killed, it was still far from enough. Apart from Yi Shiwen, the others also began to attack. They were all powerful existences above the profound death realm. Once they attacked, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Large numbers of wood demons died on the spot. However, this was just an appetizer. The truly terrifying and powerful wood demons were still in the depths of the ancestor tree's domain. Although there were many wood demons in this storm, they were no match for Yi Shiwen. They were all slaughtered in a few moves. Soon, everyone began to move towards the depths of the ancestor tree's domain. Flying all the way inside, Yi Shiwen didn't have any scruples at all. He was eager to condense the wood emperor belt, so naturally, the more wood demons he killed, the better it would be. Naturally, there was no need to be polite. Along the way, he easily killed all the powerful wood demons he encountered. Situ Nantian and the others looked at him with a strange look in their eyes. Especially Bu Haomiao, his heart was trembling. As time passed, he realized that he had not only underestimated Yi Shiwen, but he had also underestimated him. Walala! Another huge storm swept over. The wood demons looked like wild beasts, but their bodies were made of wood. This was a special life that could only be seen in the ancestor tree's domain. These wood demons were raised by the ancestor tree with his own wood chi. They were very powerful. Be careful. These wood demons are very difficult to deal with. I've encountered them before. Mei reminded. These wood demons were very powerful. They were even more terrifying than the wood demon bird from before. There were quite a few profound life stage existences amongst them, and there were even profound death stage existences amongst them. They had come in groups, and even a peak profound death stage expert could only flee upon encountering them. It was impossible for them to be their match. It was just like how Mei could only retreat in the face of these wood demons. That was because even though they were not very strong, their numbers were endless. When they joined forces and unleashed their wood attribute abilities, even a peak profound death stage expert would be able to block them. Humph! Yi Shiwen punched and blew up a group of wood attribute magical powers that were flying towards him. Boundless wood-based energy and laws were boiling and condensing in this place. This was the world of the tree fairies. Here, all wood attribute divine abilities could be infinitely improved, and it was even normal for them to improve by a realm. They could completely restrain these foreign experts. This was especially so for Yi Shan and Yun Ro. They were filled with killing intent. After killing these wood demons, they were able to gain some battle experience. And at this time, Yi Shiwen directly made his move. He shouted and stepped on a circle of arrays under his feet, which suddenly exploded. Countless sword auras were formed, and then formed a terrifying torrent of swordsmanship. For a time, the entire sky was clear, and countless wood demons were killed on the spot by Yi Shiwen. Then, it was completely absorbed by him. His wood emperor belt condensed a little more, and his strength also became a little stronger. Relying on the wood element power of the 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram was a very restrictive place for others, but for him, there were no restrictions. On the contrary, he was like a fish in water. This isn't good. He must be practicing a wood-attributed cultivation method. Judging from the commotion, it should be quite powerful. If he really succeeds in practicing it, will we still have a place to stand? Bu Haomiao couldn't help but worriedly say, "Don't be afraid. Even if he has mastered this martial art, he will not be a threat to me." Sita Nantian said with a sneer, "Moreover, it's hard to say whether he can survive or not. Why would he care about anything else? So powerful. Even if I encountered these wood demons, I would have to retreat. However, he managed to defeat them in a single move. Mei Er's eyes flickered. She had fought with these wood demons before. However, even with her strength that far exceeded the peak of the profound death realm, she couldn't go any deeper. She could only return and regroup with the others. One could imagine how much of a restriction this environment had on her. On the contrary, Yi Shiwen seemed to have no hindrance at all. The spirit energy that was filled with the wood attribute law had become a nourishing medicine for him. It was completely absorbed by him and suddenly made him even more powerful. She could also see that Yi Shiwen was practicing some peerless cultivation method. It was very impressive. After Yi Shiwen had killed all the wood demons, he returned to the team. He swept a glance at everyone and said, "I'm really sorry. I'm currently practicing a martial art, and I need these wood-attributed energy. I'm really sorry." To these profound death realm experts, these were also some wealth. They couldn't be easily given up. His actions had caused Bu Haomiao, who was about to erupt in anger, to have no excuse. How could he fall out with Yi Shiwen because of such a small matter? It doesn't matter. Anyway, this is just the beginning. Sita Nantian waved his hand and said with a magnanimous look. Anyway, their final goal was the ancestor tree's heart. Before that, everything else didn't matter. They didn't stop and continued to fly towards the depths of the ancestor tree's domain. They were extremely powerful. The powerful wood demons in the ancestor tree's domain couldn't stop them. Moreover, there was Yi Shiwen, who was bent on condensing the Wood Emperor's belt. Therefore, he didn't feel that it was troublesome to encounter these wood demons. On the contrary, he felt that this was a good opportunity. They flew for 3 days and 3 nights. Originally, with their speed, it wouldn't take them such a long time to fly at full speed in an ordinary world. However, they had to stop frequently to deal with those wood demons. After a full 3 days, they had already killed their way into the core area of the ancestor tree's boundary. The weakest wood demons they encountered were at the profound life realm. There were no longer wood demons that could blot out the sky and cover the earth. Instead, there were only small tribes that could be seen. Other than some profound life realm experts, there were even profound death realm experts mixed in. On this day, they encountered a group of extremely powerful wood demons. These wood demons were in the shape of humans. They were as huge as small mountains. From afar, they looked like mountain ranges. They were extremely huge. They were holding various kinds of weapons in their hands and emitted a ferocious aura. Their eyes immediately lit up. From the looks of it, there were at most 100 of them in this group of wood demons. However, all of them were extremely powerful. Even the weakest amongst them was at the profound death stage and above. In fact, there were quite a number of peak profound death stage existences amongst them. The wealth that a peak profound death realm wood demon represented was naturally needless to say. We must not miss this group of wood demons. We must plan properly. Sitanantion stopped and said. His eyes were filled with desire. However, these wood demons weren't easy to deal with. They weren't like the wood demons from before, where any one of them could completely annihilate them. Every single one of these wood demons was an existence above the profound death realm. They were extremely powerful and weren't easy to deal with. Just these 100-plus people were equivalent to the number of profound death stage experts possessed by an ordinary first-rate force in the profound world. They were only the leaders of first-rate forces. Therefore, they had to be cautious. However, before they could find trouble with these giant wood demons, they had already been discovered by the giant wood demons. It's these outsiders again. These outsiders want to take advantage of the ancestor tree's fall to snatch the ancestor's heart. How can we let them succeed? These outsiders must die. I will devour all of them. That's right. Even if the ancestor tree has fallen, the ancestor tree's heart should be inherited by us. In this way, we will be able to produce a legend realm expert among us. At that time, with the lifespan of our wood demon clan, we will be able to live peacefully for hundreds of thousands of years. These giant wood demons revealed a somewhat greedy look. Yi Shiwen and the others treated these giant wood demons as prey. However, on the other hand, they also treated Yi Shiwen and the others as prey. In essence, there was no difference. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen felt an incomparably tyrannical aura and divine sense locking onto them. Although these giant wood demons were few in number, they were the elites among the elites. They belonged to the kind of high-level creatures in the ancestor tree's domain. Their bodies were faintly discernible with elemental laws, sparkling with light. It was unknown whether there were millions or tens of millions of them, but all of them appeared. They were born with elemental laws, and some were comprehended after birth. This was different from ordinary warriors. However, it was also a way to become invincible. These giant wood demons are really tired of living. How dare they have ideas about us? Situ sneered. He had discovered the divine senses of these wood demon giants the moment they locked onto them. He was secretly annoyed. If it was an ordinary expert at the peak of the profound death realm, or if it was just one person, they would have to take a detour to avoid encountering these hundreds of wood demon giants. Unfortunately, these people were not ordinary people. Any one of them could be considered as an absolute expert within the same realm. Even Yi Shiwen was an existence who could fight above his level. Yi Shiwen, aren't you powerful? Now we will give these giant wood demons to you. Do you dare to accept? Wu Haomiao could not help but tease Yi Shiwen. Chapter 2009. Yi Shiwen, aren't you very powerful? Now we will give you these giant wood demons. Do you dare to accept it? Wu Haomiao couldn't help but tease Yi Shiwen. He saw that Yi Shiwen had been killing more wood demons than they had killed together along the way. Naturally, he was very unhappy. So, he couldn't help but tease Yi Shiwen. Idiot, aren't you creating opportunities for him? Situ Nantian secretly cursed in his heart. Along the way, Yi Shiwen's actions, without exception, proved one thing, and that was he was using these wood demons to practice an amazing magical martial technique. Originally, he wasn't very interested in these wood demons. Although they could be regarded as some wealth, it could be regarded as a good harvest for those solitary warriors. However, he was the leader of a first-rate force. So, how could he lack such a small harvest? However, he still took action. He didn't want Yi Shiwen to have the opportunity to practice this martial technique, although he had absolute confidence that he could suppress Yi Shiwen. However, after he mastered this martial technique, it would still be a kind of trouble. Therefore, he still didn't want Yi Shiwen to succeed. Who knew that along the way, something that made him depressed would happen? Yi Shiwen's slaughtering speed was too fast. His slaughtering speed alone was much faster than their combined speed. This made them unable to do anything even if they wanted to stop Yi Shiwen, unless both sides completely shed all pretenses of cordiality. In that case, they would recklessly take action. Otherwise, they could only helplessly watch Yi Shiwen snatch all the wood demons away. This time, these giant wood demons were powerful warriors above the profound death realm. This time, even he was tempted by the harvest of killing all of them. He was about to propose to divide these giant wood demons. However, who knew that Bu Haomiao would suddenly propose such a stupid idea? Wouldn't this mean that he wanted to give all of these wealth to Yi Shiwen? In addition to the wood demon's heart and other energy, the most important thing was the wealth that these wood demons had accumulated for many years. These wood demons were no different from beasts in his eyes. However, they were intelligent creatures after all. After so many years, the wealth that they had accumulated was quite considerable. Were they going to be given to Yi Shiwen all of a sudden? Brother Sidhu, don't worry. This is just a suggestion. The most important thing is that no matter what, these giant wood demons are all existences at the profound death realm. There are 10 of them at the peak of the profound death realm. He can't deal with so many profound death realm experts, even with a few doppelgangers. Bu Haomiao saw Situ Nanshan's expression and quickly said, since he dared to say this, everything was naturally within his calculations. He was sure that Yi Shiwen could not deal with these giant wood demons, and he also knew that Yi Shiwen would not dare to agree. If he agrees, that would be even better. Let him attack those giant wood spirits. That would be the best. Let them both suffer. In that case, we will be able to take advantage of the situation. Bu Haomiao said with a bit of complacency. Either way, he had a way to making. Yes, right. What wrong? Yi. Sitananian thought for a while. What Bu Hao Miao said was reasonable, so he didn't stop him. Instead, he continued to watch. Why wouldn't I dare? Yi Xuan laughed. He glanced at Bu Hao Miao, Sita Nantian, and the others. How could he not know that these people were eager for him to fight against the giant wood creature? That would be the best outcome for them. However, they had never thought that this would be exactly what Yi Xuan wanted. His Wood Emperor belt had slaughtered countless wood monsters over the past few days. Although the wood attribute energy of these wood monsters wasn't much for Yi Xuan, but he didn't know how many of them he had slaughtered along the way. When all of these were added together, it was an astronomical figure. There was even no lack of lone profound life stage and profound death stage experts amongst them. Therefore, his Wood Emperor belt was already more than half complete. If he could take down these 100 wood demon giants in one go, then he would definitely succeed. In that case, his 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram would be completely completed. With the help of the 5 emperors, he would be able to defeat the profound death stage experts. His strength would increase tremendously. In other words, every time he killed a wood monster, his strength would increase. They could only see this, but they didn't know how strong Yi Xuan would become. When his Wood Emperor belt was completed, he would be more confident in obtaining the Ancestor's Tree's Heart. As he thought of this, he couldn't help but smile. Apart from Situ Nantian and the others didn't have any objections. Mayer looked at Yi Xuan meaningfully, but didn't say anything. Brother Yi, don't force yourself. These wood demon giants are very powerful, and it is not worthwhile for you to fight them head-on like this. Bai Jiansheng was also afraid that Yi Xuan would not be able to deal with these wood demon giants. Don't worry. Although these giant wood demons are troublesome, I have my own methods. Yi Xuan didn't care. Originally, he was still worried that the continuous refinement of the 5 elements heaven diagram and the Wood Emperor's belt would naturally consume a large amount of energy. Fortunately, these wood demons also had a considerable amount of wealth on them. He plundered all that wealth and used it to refine the 5 elements heaven diagram. In this way, he didn't consume many Xian cores. Basically, he was using the battle to nourish himself, and he became stronger and stronger. Yi Xuan didn't wait for them to regret. With a long roar, he directly charged into the crowd of giant wood demons. When these giant wood demons saw that Yi Xuan, an outsider, had dared to directly charge at them, they were instantly enraged. They had the advantage in numbers and strength, but they hadn't even made the first move. Yi Xuan, an outsider, had actually dared to make the first move. He was simply courting death. They immediately sneered. A powerful late-stage, profound death stage expert immediately took out a wooden spear and thrust it towards Yi Xuan. He wanted to pierce through his heart. Although it was made of wood, it was much more powerful than many divine weapons. Yi Xuan didn't dodge. He directly slapped down. Clang! With a loud sound of metal colliding, the wooden spear was immediately impacted by the boundless power, and it immediately broke apart with a loud bang. This force even flowed through the spear and hit the body of the wood demon. Bang! Both of his hands exploded on the spot. A terrifying force was raging and boiling. In an instant, countless forces began to wreak havoc. Ah! He couldn't help but scream. His eyes were filled with endless fear. He didn't expect that he would be so weak. He thought that he could easily take down this arrogant outsider. Who would have thought that he would be defeated by Yi Xuan in a single move? Without waiting for him to react, a golden light appeared in front of him, and a hand directly grabbed and crushed his body's demon chi, and then directly grabbed the wood demon's heart from his body and crushed it on the spot. The pure wood attribute energy that filled the sky was also directly swallowed by Yi Xuan. The wood demon immediately drifted away with the wind, like dust in the wind, flying away. You're courting death. At this moment, a giant wood demon at the peak of the profound death realm was instantly enraged. His incomparably huge body suddenly twisted. A huge hand directly slapped down towards Yi Xuan. Yi Xuan directly raised his hand and punched out. Clang! Another incomparably loud explosion rang out. The giant wood demon laughed sinisterly. He was not the same as the late profound Death Stage Junior from before. His strength was many times more tyrannical than the previous one. Crush him into a meat patty, he coldly snorted. Meat patty? What are you talking about? Me? Just when he thought that he could crush Yi Shiwen into a meat patty, he suddenly felt a terrifying heat spreading from his palm. Whoosh! In an instant, a terrifying mystical fire surged up. In an instant, it burned his arm to ashes. Then it crazily spread to his entire body. He continuously spewed out demonic qi in an attempt to extinguish the fire. However, the demonic qi that contained the wood attribute laws only increased the intensity of the fire. All of a sudden, his body burned even more fiercely. What kind of fire is this? It's so powerful. He continuously roared and shrieked in disbelief. One must know that he was a spirit formed from the energy of a different wood attribute. Although it was a rule that fire could subdue wood, they were innately unafraid of ordinary flames. It was simply impossible to use ordinary flames to deal with them. Even if it was an ordinary flame, they wouldn't take it seriously. Who would have thought that this kind of flame would be so powerful? With the cry of a phoenix, the peak of the profound death realm wood demon was completely incinerated on the spot. This was the tragedy of cultivating only one attribute. Although it was powerful, it would be completely subdued by something that could subdue him. There was simply no way for him to retaliate. Yi Shiwen was puzzled because of the Nanming mythical fire. It was one of the most powerful flames in the world. Only a few other flames, such as the true sun fire, could be compared with it. So, one could well imagine how powerful it was. He was burnt to ashes, and the inexhaustible wood energy was directly absorbed by Yi Shiwen. Not good. There's something strange about this kid. The giant wood demons started to panic. They didn't expect him to have such a fire attribute magical ability. They immediately retreated and tried to escape. However, how could Yi Shiwen let them go so easily? He snorted coldly and a fire burned through the sky. With the help of wood-attributed Lingqi, the world was turned into a sea of fire. These wood demon giants didn't even have time to react and were burned into a qi which filled the sky. Then he opened his mouth and sucked in all of it. On his body, the wood emperor belt instantly condensed. Chapter 2010. Everyone was startled. They hadn't expected that these wood demon giants, which were very difficult to deal with, would be so easily dealt with by Yi Shiwen. He had burned them all with a single fire. What kind of flame is that? It's so powerful. Bu Haomiao said in a daze. Nanming Leaf Fire. It's the most powerful natal magical power of the Phoenix clan. Long Jinbei said. The dragon and Phoenix had fought for supremacy for a long time in the past. Therefore, they naturally understood the Phoenix clan very well. Although he only had some dragon clan bloodline, he was not unfamiliar with them. How did he do it? Bu Haomiao could not believe it. Since it was said to be a natal magical power, it meant that no one other than the Phoenix clan could use it. Could it be that he also has the bloodline of the Phoenix clan? Situ Nantian frowned and said, this was not impossible. The Phoenix clan had been established for countless years. Their bloodline was very wide. Even the legendary Heavenly Phoenix Lady was of the human clan. Nothing was impossible. However, these wood demons had all been slaughtered by Yi Shiwen in a single breath. Not even the slightest benefit had fallen into their hands. These were all ordinary wood demons. The weakest among them was at the profound death realm. That in itself represented endless wealth. Yi Shiwen slowly breathed a sigh of relief after absorbing all the wood qi into his body. He naturally knew very well that he was able to succeed this time, largely because the Nanming Leaf Fire had restrained these wood demons to a great extent. Moreover, they were not on guard, which was why he was able to kill them all. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to deal with so many profound Death Realm wood demons. However, after forming the Wood Emperor Belt, the 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram was completed and its power increased. Even if his cultivation did not increase, his strength had increased by a lot. However, although they were unwilling, there was nothing they could do, especially Situ Nantian, who simply couldn't say a word. He didn't stop Yi Shiwen because he wanted to see Yi Shiwen make a fool of himself. But who knew that Yi Shiwen didn't make a fool of himself and instead obtained such great benefits? This undoubtedly made him extremely unwilling. Even though this was the case, everyone had no other choice but to continue forward. Very quickly, they arrived at the central region of the Ancestor Tree world. Along the way, they encountered an increasing number of peak profound death stage wood demons. All of them were hurrying towards the central region, seemingly to support the Ancestor Tree. Roar! Suddenly, just as they approached, they felt a terrifying torrent of air sweeping over from afar. The entire sky began to crack, and endless wood elemental laws appeared in an instant. The void distorted horribly, as if it had been blown apart by some kind of power. Be careful! Yi Shiwen's senses were the sharpest, and he was the first to discover this anomaly. At this time, there was no need for Yi Shiwen to say anything, because in that instant, a monstrous wave swept over. It seemed as if it could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. It seemed as if it could flatten everything. Everyone hurriedly propped up their protective true elemental energy or various magic tools to protect themselves. Boom! Countless airwaves swept past Yi Shiwen's body, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. The endless divinities on the surface of his body began to fluctuate violently, just like the surface of the water. The power of the entire roar's sound waves could be imagined. It was extremely terrifying. Everyone managed to dodge it without any mishaps. However, their expressions all turned ugly. The might of the furious roar was far too great and frightening. If it was someone below the profound death stage, they might be killed on the spot by that roar if they were not careful. Their expressions turned grave because they discovered that the strength of the Ancestor Tree was 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times more terrifying than what they had initially expected. It was a boundless sea of trees that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was like an incomparably huge forest, and in the center of this huge forest was a towering tree. It was immeasurably tall, immeasurably wide, immeasurably long, and immeasurably tall, reaching into the clouds. Hiss, as expected of the Ancestor Tree. This, even though Yi Shiwen had seen many huge creatures in his life, and even felt that the laws of heaven and earth could also grow extremely large, he had never seen such a huge creature. The entire tree was practically a world of its own. The surrounding spiritual energy became even more berserk. The Ancestor Tree's Yuan spirit directly transformed into a towering green wood demon giant. It simply floated in the air, guarding the incomparably huge tree. That Yuan spirit is the Ancestor Tree. As long as his Yuan spirit is destroyed, there is no need to worry about anything else. Bai Jianxing narrowed his eyes as he looked at the huge wood demon giant and said. Everyone nodded their heads. They were also very clear that if they could not eradicate the Ancestor Tree's Yuan spirit, they would not be able to break into the interior of the huge tree. That was where the Real treasure was located. In fact, this towering tree itself was where the treasure was located. For a time, the entire space shook and rippled. Layers of spatial ripples were constantly appearing. Countless martial arts torrents swept towards the Ancestor Tree's Yuan spirit in the air. Everyone had come prepared this time, and all of them were using fire attribute magical tools. Moreover, all of them were heavenly flames. These weren't ordinary flames, and they formed fire dragons that covered the sky and the earth as they swept over. However, these attacks were unable to truly harm the Ancestor Tree's Yuan spirit. The Ancestor Tree's Yuan spirit was not to be outdone. Huge vine whips floated in the void, and from time to time lashed out. They were fast, accurate, and ruthless, directly piercing into the void. From time to time, there would be people who were careless and could not block them at all. They were pierced on the spot and died on the spot. Their corpses fell to the ground and were directly swallowed by the towering trees below, dying without a burial. The battle was extremely intense, but everyone had gone crazy in order to obtain the Ancestor Tree's heart. This was the only hope for these experts at the peak of the profound death realm to break into the Paong realm. The Paong realm and the profound death realm were only one realm apart, but the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. For these experts, the probability of breaking into the Pawang realm was far too small. If there was a chance, they would have already broken into the Pawang realm long ago. As for the remaining people, they were unable to break into the Pawang realm due to various reasons. To them, they would not easily let go of even the slightest bit of hope. Therefore, they had all gone crazy. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen noticed that under his feet, there was a huge wood demon hiding among the trees. It stared at Yi Shiwen with its big eyes, which were like copper bells. It was actually planning to launch a surprise attack on Yi Shiwen's group. Originally, his aura was completely integrated into the trees, so no one would be able to find him. Yi Shiwen's perception was very keen, so it was possible for him to find this huge wood demon amidst this chaotic Lingqi tide. Overconfident animal, Yi Shiwen gave a loud shout. Then a big hand suddenly shot out to grab that huge wood demon. It was so big that it blotted out the sky and the sun, and suddenly formed a big hand and grabbed that huge wood demon. When everyone saw Yi Shiwen make his move, they discovered that this wood demon was planning to launch a sneak attack on them. They could not help but feel a lingering fear in their hearts. If he had succeeded, it would be a little troublesome. Even if everyone present was a top expert, they could not guarantee that nothing would happen to them. When the wood demon saw that it had been seen through, it immediately let out a loud roar. Countless would attribute magical powers covered the sky and the earth as they bombarded towards Yi Shiwen. However, none of them could shake Yi Shiwen's huge hand that covered the sky. Suddenly, it was grabbed by Yi Shiwen, and no matter how it struggled, it was of no use. It was directly grabbed by Yi Shiwen and exploded on the spot. It turned into an energy that filled the sky and was absorbed by Yi Shiwen. The 5 elements Qianyuan diagram had become slightly stronger. It's a pity that it's only at the profound death realm. Otherwise, I would be able to absorb more. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said in a somewhat regretful tone. When everyone saw that Yi Shiwen had easily killed a profound death realm wood demon, their hearts could not help but jump violently. This was especially true for Bu Haomiao and the others. Their faces had turned even uglier than before. Previously, Yi Shiwen had killed over 100 profound death realm wood demons in one go. That could be explained as them being caught off guard by the heavenly flame. However, now that Yi Shiwen had casually crushed a profound death realm wood demon, Bu Haomiao had to admit that even he would not be able to do it so easily. Even Yi Shiwen had done the same before. Therefore, there was only one possibility. Yi Shiwen had become stronger. He had become even stronger. Should we take action as well? Yunro asked. Yes, we should take action as well. Don't be fooled by the tree ancestor's stubbornness. It's merely a final struggle before death. What we need to do now is to speed up his exhaustion and let him die as soon as possible. We don't have so much time to waste here. Bai Jianxing said. Yes. Everyone nodded one after another. No matter what kind of thoughts they all had the same thought at this moment. They had to kill the tree ancestor first. As for what happened after that, they could only think about it after that. However, Yi Shiwen suddenly noticed a subtle, undetectable fluctuation flickering in the space. A spirit was released from Bu Haomiao's hand. He narrowed his eyes. Countless thoughts flashed in his mind. However, his face did not change. He did not expose Bu Haomiao. However, he was on guard in his heart. At this moment, everyone attacked with all their might. Just like everyone else, they were also prepared. Fire attribute martial arts, magical powers, and magic tools all exploded with powerful might. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been killed on the spot. However, the tree ancestor was not an ordinary person. In fact, he was not a newcomer in the Pawang realm, but an outstanding talent. If it was not for the fact that he was about to die, who would dare to target him? Moreover, he was in a lair like the tree ancestor's domain. Suddenly, a shrill sound of something tearing through the air was heard on the spot, followed by a vine whip directly lashing over. Chapter 2011. Swoosh! The vine whip instantly broke through the space and rushed towards Yi Shiwen and the others. Yi Shiwen bore the brunt of the attack. Yi Shiwen was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. With a swoosh, the vine whip was about to land on Yi Shiwen's body. Bu Haomiao and the others who were behind him could not help but sneer. Yi Shiwen was trying to show off. They had already noticed that although the vine whip looked ordinary, it was ridiculously powerful. Even a peak profound Death Realm expert would be seriously injured by a single whip. It was incomparably terrifying. Moreover, this was because the tree ancestor was already close to death. Otherwise, it would be even more shocking. A single whip would be able to seriously injure an ordinary Paoang expert. However, at that critical moment, Yi Shiwen's entire body suddenly moved away, turning into a mass of golden light and disappearing. The entire vine whip passed through Yi Shiwen's body and directly hit Bu Haomiao, who was behind him. Bang! Bu Haomiao was hit on the spot. His body flew out like a cannonball, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. He only felt that his vision turned black and his body was about to break. He felt that he was about to die. And at this time, how could Sita Nantian and the others still dare to watch the show? Otherwise, the vine whip would hit their bodies. They quickly acted and destroyed the vine whip, which was harder than metal, on the spot. Everyone couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. This vine whip came so suddenly that no one was prepared for it. Yi Shiwen, you did it on purpose, didn't you? Bu Haomiao, who was hit on the spot, gnashed the blood in his mouth and said angrily. He was seriously injured. What do you think? Yi Shiwen looked at Bu Haomiao, who was about to die from anger, and laughed in his heart. Yes, he did it on purpose. He could have avoided it earlier, but he didn't. He had to wait until the critical moment to barely avoid it. Therefore, Bu Haomiao didn't have time to dodge and was hit on the spot. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been hit so miserably if he had been prepared. However, he didn't have anything to feel guilty about. These people had discovered it long ago, but none of them wanted to take action. It was obvious that they wanted him to be hit on the spot. It would be best if he was seriously injured. If Bu Haomiao had helped him earlier, the situation wouldn't have turned out like this. He only had himself to blame. Looking at Yi Shiwen's faintly smiling face, he suddenly became furious. However, there was nothing he could do because he couldn't find any evidence that Yi Shiwen had done it on purpose. Moreover, the vine whip wasn't under his control, so he could only blame it on his bad luck. Just you wait. When the time comes, I'll make sure you die without a burial place. Die! His furious face even had a sinister look. Suddenly, there was a change in the situation at this moment. An incomparably loud explosion could be heard as a giant flaming hand descended from the sky and slammed towards the tree ancestor. At the same time, another spectacular scene appeared in front of everyone. A huge light barrier with a radius of several hundred kilometers suddenly appeared in midair, protecting the tree father. It was an incomparably huge spell formation, and it was activated in an instant. Boom! The huge flaming hand and the huge light shield collided fiercely, setting off a monstrous light, shattering everything and collapsing the space. All the excess power poured into the broken space. Everyone was shocked. At this time, no one was in the mood to pursue the matter of Yi Shiwen just now. An expert of the myth realm had made a move. Everyone understood that the real big shot had appeared. An expert of the myth realm had made a move, and that was the real existence that could decide everything. Although they were all hoping that there wouldn't be a myth realm expert, now that this expert of the myth realm had made a move, it completely shattered all their hopes. In the face of such a temptation, even an expert of the myth realm would not easily let it go. For them, this was the hope of breaking into the Paoang realm, but for the experts of the myth realm, this was also the hope of advancing further. Even among the experts of the Paoang realm, the tree ancestor was considered a strong expert, not a weakling. After his death, the essence left behind by the tree ancestor's heart would naturally attract the attention of countless people. Tree ancestor, surrender obediently. In the void, a majestic voice came. Obviously, it was the person who had just made a move. Wishful thinking, if you want the tree ancestor's heart, then exchange it with your life. The tree ancestor was even more unyielding. As a peak existence that had dominated a world for hundreds of thousands of years, he was far from what these people could compare to. Everyone, pay attention. When they start fighting and kill the tree ancestor, that will be our chance, Wei Jianxing said. Everyone nodded. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for a long time, and naturally, they would not miss it. In the void, a tyrannical aura was lingering. If the previous attacks of experts of the profound death realm were considered as appetizers, then now, the real experts of the myth realm were about to make a move. This was a completely different level. It was not a level that they could participate in. If they insisted on participating, then the consequences would be unimaginable. In Yi Shiwen's Tianyuan mirror, the devil puppet of the ancient ancestor religion suddenly opened its eyes and suddenly emitted a power that belonged to an expert of the myth realm. Then, it suddenly disappeared from the void. It had already appeared in the ancestor tree's domain and was hiding in a corner, waiting for the right time to snatch it. Yi Shiwen also knew that with these experts of the myth realm taking action, their chances were not very high. If a profound death realm expert wanted to snatch something from the experts of the myth realm, it would be courting death. Fortunately, he was different from the others. He still had the devil puppet, a genuine devil puppet of the myth realm. Although he had only refined a small part of it, its power was already tyrannical enough. These experts of the myth realm were hiding in various corners of the void, and all of them were silent. They seemed to have reached a tacit understanding that they would not fight among themselves before killing the tree ancestor. If it was during normal times, even if the tree ancestor was seriously injured, they might not dare to cause trouble. After all, if the tree ancestor was not dead, then they would be in big trouble in the future. However, the tree ancestor was about to pass away. In other words, it was only a matter of time before he died. Therefore, they no longer had any scruples. This was a kind of sorrow. Even if the tree ancestor was unrivaled in the world in the past, he would still end up being besieged. This was the true path of martial arts. Unless one reached the top, he would have to face this sooner or later. It was also because of this that people wanted to completely change everything. Boom! 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 No one said a word. They just kept silent, but their attacks did not stop. They attacked the tree ancestor with an earth-shattering force. These were all experts of the myth realm. The power of their attacks was far beyond those of the profound death realm. If the profound death realm experts were great figures in the Xian world, then these experts of the myth realm were the true overlords. Every overlord was an existence that could shake the world. Their stories could be written into legends and myths that would be passed down for eternity. These were the true experts of the myth realm. These kinds of people usually explored various worlds. It was not easy to find one of them, let alone dozens of them. One could imagine how powerful the tree ancestor's heart was. Without exception, these auras were tyrannical, earth-shattering, and lawless. Bu Haomiao and the others looked at these earth-shattering figures. Even though they were far away, their faces turned pale and they clenched their fists. The profound death realm and the Palong realm were only a step apart. However, the difference in power between the two was too great. Even though they had already stepped into the peak of the profound death realm, they were no different from ants in the eyes of the myth realm. They would not take them seriously at all. Such a battle had far exceeded their level. Every time they lifted a hand or a leg, they would crush their opponent with the power of the laws. They were not purely using martial arts to attack. The power of heaven and earth was used to the extreme in their hands. In the face of such tyrannical experts, even Yi Shiwen had no other way but to escape. If it was not for the ancient ancestor sect leader's demonic puppet, he would have given up on the idea of seizing the tree ancestor's heart. However, it was different now. He had to fight for it no matter what. If he could devour the tree ancestor's heart, there would naturally be many benefits. I did not expect that the tree ancestor's heart would attract so many myth realm experts. It's almost more than the number of myth realm experts I have seen in my life. If this is the case, won't we profound death realm experts have no chance? Bu Haomiao could not help but say in a daze. No matter what, he still had the idea of seizing the tree ancestor's heart. At that time, who knew that there would be so many myth realm experts? Any one of them could annihilate all of them. What chance would they have then? Not only Bu Haomiao, Situ Nantian, Long Jinbei, Mayor Bai Jiansheng, and the others also had an extremely unwilling look on their faces. It was impossible to say that they were not interested in the tree ancestor's heart. However, how could they resist when they saw these myth realm experts? Brother Bai, are we really going to compete with these myth realm experts? Yishan inhaled a breath of cold air and asked. These myth realm experts made his scalp tingle. It should be known that the human race from the ancient times only had one myth realm expert until now. Back then, the Heaven Wasteland Palace had only dispatched 2 myth realm experts to annihilate a colossus like the ancient ancestor sect. One could imagine how much the existence of dozens of myth realm experts shocked them. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not dare to believe that there were actually so many myth realm experts. Chapter 2012. Many mythical characters were elusive and did not even appear in front of the public. Unless one was in that circle, no one knew how many mythical characters were still alive. For such experts, proving their Tao had become the only pleasure and goal in life. Nothing else could be compared to it. They didn't even bother to appear in front of people. Therefore, for them, even if they were the top figures in the Xian world in the eyes of ordinary people, they didn't know much about these things. Bai Jiansheng couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Although he was very confident that he would enter the Paong realm in the future and become a mythical figure, he wasn't arrogant enough to face a real mythical figure without batting an eyelid. So it seems that we can only dispel this idea this time. Even if we want to seize the heart of the tree ancestor, the success rate is not very high. Bai Jiansheng couldn't help but sigh and said. Although the others were unwilling, they also agreed with Bai Jiansheng's statement. However, they didn't leave yet, because if the heart of the tree ancestor was the climax feast of the mythical figures, then the rest should be the place for them to show off their skills. Rumble! A series of violent explosions came from afar. Waves of surging attacks constantly bombarded the light shield to kill the tree ancestor. However, these amazing attacks fell on the light shield and were absorbed, then quickly weakened. The tree ancestor was as stable as Mount Tai. This tree ancestor is really powerful. Even if he is about to die of old age, he still has such a powerful degree. If he was at his peak, I'm afraid that he would also be a tyrannical figure. Yi Xuan narrowed his eyes and said, hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation. He didn't dare to imagine how deep and powerful it was. If it was him, he simply didn't dare to imagine how powerful he would be after hundreds of thousands of years. Of course, he didn't have such a long life. Compared to the wood demons, humans were really short-lived species. It was possible that in just a moment, a human expert would go from glory to decline. Yes, it's so powerful, it's simply earth-shattering. No wonder he was able to stay in the Xian world battlefield for countless years. It is said that he obtained the inheritance of a deity and became enlightened. I don't know if it's true or not. Mayer couldn't help but sigh. But she didn't have any fear, only a little excitement. But don't you think it's very strange? Even if the heart of the tree ancestor is very precious, it shouldn't have attracted so many mythical figures. They're all demigods. Although the heart of the tree ancestor is good, it can't attract all of them. Mayer suddenly said, could it be a deity orthodoxy? Sita Nanshan's eyes suddenly flashed. Even he had heard about the news that the tree ancestor had received the inheritance of a god. One could only imagine how far this rumor had spread. Regardless of whether it was true or not, for mythical experts who wanted to prove their Tao, even if there was only a tiny bit of hope, it was enough for them to give it their all. No matter what the reason was, it was not something they could participate in. Let's kill some of the wood demons on the periphery first. Let's kill some of the wood demons in the periphery first to increase our strength. Bai Jiansheng suggested. Everyone nodded. As the tree ancestor was besieged, more and more wood monsters came from all over the world of the ancestor tree realm. They were all powerful existences. They were all the descendants of the tree ancestor. Just like their emperor being besieged, they naturally wouldn't let it go. Although these were not as good as the tree ancestor, they were also rare gains. everyone naturally wouldn't let go of these wood demons. They began to spread out, and then looked for these wood demons to kill. Shattering Star Fist. Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, clenched his 5 fingers into a fist, and fiercely punched downwards. A wood demon appeared in the void, but it was punched through on the spot. It was obviously another wood demon that wanted to launch a surprise attack on Yi Shiwen, but it was completely destroyed on the spot by Yi Shiwen. It couldn't get close to Yi Shiwen at all, and it was impossible for it to be his opponent. All the wood demons turned into wood energy and were absorbed by his wood emperor belt. He didn't hide it and directly activated the state of 5 Emperor's enhancement. Anyway, this state had already been seen by others, so it didn't matter. After activating the state of 5 Emperor's enhancement, Yi Shiwen's strength soared to a terrifying realm. He continued to kill and directly rushed into the forest. These wood demons were hiding in the forest and wanted to fight against Yi Shiwen by relying on the terrain. Who would have thought that Yi Shiwen wouldn't play hide and seek with them at all? He directly activated the Nanming mythical fire and began to burn. Suddenly, the wood demons hiding in the forest were burned to ashes and turned into wood energy, which was absorbed by him. More than half of these energy essences were transformed by the cultivation conversion technique and were absorbed by him. It was much faster than absorbing the Xian core. Yi Shiwen secretly thought that if he continued to kill like this, it wouldn't take long for him to directly step into the peak of profound death realm. However, the consumption of the Nanming mythical fire was naturally extremely fast. Although he could use the Phoenix regeneration technique to nourish the Nanming mythical fire, it didn't mean that it could be compared to the real Phoenix clan. Therefore, it could only be used as a trump card, and not a real means. If it wasn't for the Nanming mythical fire's miraculous effect on these wood demons, he wouldn't use it so and scrupulously. As long as his cultivation could skyrocket, it didn't matter at all. Anyway, the Nanming mythical fire wasn't his only trump card. Bu Haomiao couldn't help but grit his teeth in hatred when he saw Yi Shiwen killing so quickly in the sky. However, there was no way to stop it. He could only see Yi Shiwen becoming stronger and stronger, and his aura constantly rising. Even he had to be extremely shocked and vigilant. A stern look flashed across Situ Nanshan's eyes. Yi Shiwen was becoming more and more powerful, and this made him feel a strong threat. He wasn't as indifferent and confident as he was at the beginning. Yi Shiwen continued to kill these wood demons. The wood energy that he absorbed was either turned into the wood emperor's belt or absorbed by him into essence chi. He finally felt that he had reached a bottleneck. If he could cross it, he would reach the peak of profound death realm. However, if he couldn't cross it, then everything would be in vain. However, he didn't choose to cross it directly. His current strength had already far exceeded the ordinary peak of profound death realm. If he wanted to step into the peak of profound death realm, he could do it in a matter of minutes. This was the so-called principle of using strength to prove one's Tao. When one's strength surpassed the realm, it would naturally be much easier to step into a whole new realm. However, even so, not everyone could do it. The realm was like a water tank. The size of the water tank depended on how much water it could hold. It was easier said than done to fill the water tank without overflowing it. This in itself wasn't something that an ordinary person could do. His ambition was extremely great. He wanted to be comparable to a legendary figure. If this idea was known by others, he would probably be regarded as a madman. Any legendary figure was a true legend. Their strength was so great that it could shake the heavens and earth. Any one of them could destroy a group of experts at the peak of the profound death stage. Wanting to be comparable to a legendary figure at the peak of the profound death stage was simply insane. It was simply completely crazy. However, this was what he thought. In fact, he even did it. He didn't think that it was impossible. He didn't know how long it would take for him to break into the Paoang realm. He needed endless accumulation of strength. However, he urgently needed the strength of the Paoang realm. This was the only way to break into the Paoang realm. Without destruction, there can be no construction. What was the meaning of Paoang? If you can part with your treasures, you can break through the Paoang realm. If you can break through the Paoang realm, you can return to the truth and enter the path of Bodhi. Breaking through all illusions, breaking through the final obstacle on the road to prove one's Tao. Reaching the heart and entering the Bodhi was the true way to prove one's Tao. He was currently working hard for this. Capture them for me. With another loud roar, he directly captured a dozen profound death realm wood demons on the spot. They were directly sucked into his hands, after which they exploded on the spot. All of them turned into a chi and were absorbed by him. Not enough, still not enough, still not enough. Yishuan didn't stop for even a moment. He continuously captured those wood demons and refined them for his own use. Yishuan's crazy massacre quickly attracted the attention of many peak experts. If it was any other time, many people would have come to find trouble with Yishuan. However, at this moment, everyone's attention was drawn to the main battlefield. The confrontation between the tree ancestor and the various legendary figures was incomparably dazzling. Many experts who were watching were simply intoxicated. It was a power that stood above them. In their hands, the laws seemed to have come to life, and they swept through everything in their surroundings. Tree ancestor, I see that you're really stubborn. Since that's the case, don't blame us. Suddenly, a cold roar rang out from the void. An incomparably loud roar was heard. A boundless flaming hand descended from the sky with a monstrous aura and directly slammed against the light barrier. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A series of terrifying explosions rang out. It was as if the sky had collapsed, after which countless attacks from the myth realm swept over and landed ruthlessly on the light barrier. The light barrier was shattered almost immediately, after which the boundless power directly blasted against the tree ancestor's body. The tree ancestor roared. Countless trees grew frantically and surrounded him. However, the opportunity was instantly shattered. They were completely no match for the tree ancestor. Rumble, rumble, rumble. All of these attacks landed on the tree ancestor's body. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Everyone realized that their opportunity had arrived. Chapter 2013. Everyone, get ready. Let's get rid of him in one go. One of the godmyth experts roared, and all of the power he could muster was converging into a single point. Countless martial arts torrents flashed in the sky, and countless law talismans flashed, converged into a huge field, and suddenly, all of them fell down. Roar! The tree ancestor roared loudly, and his figure instantly soared a lot. A terrifying pressure swept in all directions, and the aura of a top myth expert suddenly spread in all directions. Suddenly, many of the experts around were like a small boat in a storm, unable to resist at all. Although Yishuan was very far away, but he could still feel the terrifying, imposing aura sweeping over. He directly opened up his divinity, and only then could he barely resist the raging astral wind. In the sky, a myth expert said, "Tree ancestor, we admire you for being a powerful myth expert, and we are willing to give you a dignified death." Dignified death? You still want to talk about this? If you want the heart of the tree ancestor, then exchange it with your life. The tree ancestor had completely fallen into a state of madness, and he had been forced to the edge of death. He was almost crazy. Even if I die, I will not be bullied by you jumping clowns. Crash! In an instant, pure wood attribute monster chi swept out, and everyone's expression changed. They did not dare to imagine that pure chi energy could make them feel such a huge threat. One could imagine how tyrannical the tree ancestor's skill was. Billowing chi swept in all directions, and the first to bear the brunt were the myth experts who rushed to the front. They did not want to fall behind, and they all controlled the law of space, wanting to block this amazing wave of power. A few myth experts who had just entered the Palong realm did not have time to scream, and they directly screamed as they were swept by the chi, and they exploded on the spot. The power of a myth expert exploding on the spot was naturally terrifying, and it was like a giant nuclear bomb exploding on the spot. Huge mushroom clouds rose into the sky. The dazzling light covered everything, making it impossible for anyone to see what was happening. You jumping clowns, even if I die, you will all be buried with me. The tree ancestor's voice was like thunder, piercing through the entire tree ancestor's world. Wave after wave of true essence swept out in all directions. Countless miserable screams rose and fell in the sky. The legendary figures were still fine, but the profound realm experts were all swept away. Many of them couldn't resist and exploded on the spot. Even though they were far enough away, even though they were all peerless experts in the eyes of the public at this time, they couldn't do anything about it. All of them exploded with a loud bang. Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, and the 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram came out. The power of the 5 elements swept out and enveloped the weakest Yi Shan and Yun Ro. The waves of energy simply couldn't break through the 5 elements universe diagram's defenses. Everyone else also displayed their own remarkable abilities. They were indeed top-notch experts, and each of them had their own methods. Although they couldn't do it as easily as Yi Shiwen, they were still able to withstand the attacks. All of a sudden, the terrifying tide that was wreaking havoc and forcing everyone to retreat suddenly weakened. Everyone's faces lit up with joy. He can't hold on any longer. Let's send him on his way. A legendary expert shouted. At this time, the legendary experts didn't have any reservations at all, and they all appeared in the space with their original bodies. One after another, huge torrents of martial arts blasted out. Dozens of legendary experts attacked together. Such strength could be said to be terrifying, and it destroyed everything. This was a terrifying force that could completely annihilate the tree ancestors' world. It made people feel as if the world was angry, and it couldn't be resisted. Rumble! These attacks all smashed onto the tree ancestor's body, and the whole sky trembled. Although the tree ancestor was a top-notch legendary expert, he was old after all. Facing the siege of dozens of legendary experts, he already felt powerless. On the spot, the condensed body of the original spirit suddenly exploded. In an instant, everyone felt as if time was about to stop. The sweeping energy destroyed everything, annihilated sound, and destroyed vision. It turned into an energy that filled the sky, crazily sweeping in all directions. How could Yi Shiwen let go of such a good opportunity? He directly used the 5 elements Qian Yuan diagram and crazily absorbed this unimaginably pure wood energy into his body. Ah! 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 Screams sounded one after another. Many people also wanted to imitate Yi Shiwen, but they exploded on the spot because of the wood energy. Only then did they realize that this was not something an ordinary person could do. Looking at Yi Shiwen, who seemed to be doing it with ease, they couldn't help but murmur in their hearts. He was simply an abnormal powerhouse. The tree ancestor's heart. Suddenly, someone roared. At the center of the explosion, an incomparably huge emerald heart floated in the void, moving up and down. Everyone's eyes were immediately focused on this incomparably huge heart. The tree ancestor's heart was entwined with countless wood attribute laws, and law talismans were constantly appearing. This was a wood attribute treasure. Everyone's eyes were suddenly filled with excitement. And on top of the tree ancestor's heart, there was a huge scripture that was constantly moving up and down. It was the ancient God scripture. Compared to the tree ancestor's heart, everyone was undoubtedly more interested in the ancient God scripture that represented the inheritance of the gods. It turns out that the goal of these legendary masters is not only the tree ancestor's heart, but also the ancient God scripture. Sidhu Nanshan's eyes flashed with a look of horror. So those legends are true. This tree ancestor really obtained the inheritance of the gods. And this is how he cultivated the magical martial arts, which is why he can cultivate the existence of a legendary master today. This ancient God scripture must be very amazing. Boom! With a loud sound, the ancient God scripture directly disappeared in the air, as if it had divinity, and fled on the spot, not giving anyone a chance to catch it. Want to leave? Where do you think you are going? Suddenly, many legendary masters shouted and chased after it. This is a good opportunity. No one will be interested in the tree ancestor's heart. Yi Shiwen's eyes suddenly lit up. Now that these legendary masters were chasing after the ancient god scripture, it also meant that no one was interested in the tree ancestor's heart. Wasn't this a great opportunity? Although the ancient god scripture was very tempting, to him, it was not as important as the tree ancestor's heart. The ancient god scripture was undoubtedly a supreme treasure for other people who were bitterly pursuing the inheritance of the gods. However, to Yi Shiwen, who had the inheritance of the emperor, it was nothing more than the icing on the cake. It did not matter if he did not have it. On the contrary, the tree ancestor's heart was the most important to him. If he wanted to raise his battle strength to the Paong realm from the peak of the profound death realm, he would have to rely on the tree ancestor's heart. It was very clear which was more important. Some of the legendary masters were not willing to give up, and after struggling for a while, they still chased after the ancient god scripture. Although the tree ancestor's heart could improve their cultivation, the ancient god scripture was the key to whether or not they could prove their Tao. Naturally, they had to make a choice. Thus, in an instant, most of the dozens of myth experts left. However, not all of them left. A powerful legendary master directly appeared from the void. He was very clear that he might not have the opportunity to obtain the ancient god scripture. He might as well take this opportunity to snatch the tree ancestor's heart. Although it was regretful, it was much better than returning empty-handed. However, at this moment, just as he was about to snatch the tree ancestor's heart, a big hand that had been hidden for a long time suddenly grabbed out from the void. The entire void collapsed, and the tree ancestor's heart was completely grabbed by this big hand. Roar, who is it? This powerful legendary master was completely enraged. Someone actually dared to intercept him under his nose. He immediately waved his big hand, and in the void there was a violent explosion, and everything collapsed in an instant. Then, in an instant, everyone saw clearly that it was a majestic figure. As expected, it was also a legendary master. If it was not a legendary master, how many people would dare to attack a legendary master? Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader, it's actually you. The legendary master immediately flew into a rage. This circle was so small, and after a long time, they would eventually know each other, let alone a well-known figure like the Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader. Weren't you killed by the Heaven Wasteland Palace? Did you escape? He suddenly muttered in his heart. He was not weak, but the Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader was even more tyrannical. He was a publicly recognized expert, but according to the rumors, the Ancient Ancestor Sect had been completely conquered by the Heaven Wasteland Palace, and the Heaven Wasteland Palace had obtained a great amount of wealth. The Ancient Ancestor Sect had lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, and was not inferior to the forces created by the Tree Ancestor. But now that the Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader had appeared, it meant that the rumors might be wrong. The Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader had not died, and had even escaped. What did this mean? It meant that the Heaven Wasteland Palace was in trouble, big trouble. But no matter what, the Heaven Wasteland Palace had to face the Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader. Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader, don't go too far. Today I also have a share of the Tree Ancestor's heart. The legendary master shouted. What? Do you want to die? The Ancient Ancestor Sect Leader glanced at him, his tone extremely cold. Chapter 2014. At this time, the one who was controlling the Ancient Ancestor Religion Master was naturally Yi Shiwen. Initially, he thought that a big battle would break out. Now, the strength of the Ancient Ancestor Religion Master could be said to be less than 1/10 of his original strength. He was only at the first level of Paong Realm. Although he was far more powerful than ordinary experts at the first level of Paong Realm, there was still a big gap between him and the expert at the third level of Paong Realm. Yi Shiwen originally thought that it would be inevitable to entangle with the Ancient Ancestor Religion Master, who knew that when this person saw that it was the Ancient Ancestor Religion Master, he was a little timid. The Ancient Ancestor Religion Master had blocked the Heaven Wasteland Temple for countless years by himself. It could be said that his fierce reputation was illustrious. Even now that the Ancient Ancestor Religion Master was defeated, it did not reduce his fierce reputation. Moreover, it was not that he had not fought with the Ancient Ancestor Religion Master before. At this time, his momentum was naturally weak. Therefore, Yishuan simply beat him at his own game. He scared the other party, but he could not immediately turn around and leave. He could not let the other party have any doubts. Otherwise, he was afraid that it would take a long time. If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. The ancient ancestor religion master glanced coldly at the mythical expert. The mythical expert was reprimanded by Yi Shiwen without giving him any face. He was completely enraged. Hatred flashed in his eyes, but there was no other way. The prestige of the ancient ancestor religion master gave him too much pressure. It was so big that it formed a dark cloud in his heart, haunting him like a ghost. Don't be complacent. If the people of the Heaven Wasteland Temple know that you are here, you will never escape. He gritted his teeth and said, "Before that, I can crush you to death." The ancient ancestor religion master said coldly, "You?" He was suddenly angry, but he knew that what the ancient ancestor religion master said was not false. He did have such an ability. In the end, after thinking for a long time, he could only glare at the ancient ancestor religion master hatefully, then turned around and left. He would never know that the ancient ancestor religion master in front of him was not as simple as he thought. After the mythical expert left, Yi Shiwen reluctantly heaved a sigh of relief. No one knew better than him how strong the ancient ancestor religion master was. If they really fought, he could only flee. Although he had absolute confidence in escaping, it would be best if he could not escape in a sorry state. After the mythical expert retreated, the ancient ancestor sect master turned around and disappeared into the void. As these mythical experts left one after another, the crowd burst into an uproar. It is actually sect master ancient ancestor. How can it be him? Although the Heaven Wasteland Hall had defeated the ancient ancestor sect, not many details were revealed. However, there were still some details, including the death of the ancient ancestor sect master. This matter could not be concealed, and the Heaven Wasteland Hall would not embarrass themselves by saying that they were intercepted halfway and that the physical body of the ancient ancestor sect master was snatched away. Therefore, the outside world did not know about this matter. At this time, when the ancient ancestor sect master appeared, it caused a commotion. Everyone suspected that the Heaven Desolate Palace was lying. Although they did not know why the Heaven Desolate Palace would lie about this issue, Dan Hao was definitely lying about this issue. If that was the case, then there would be a good show to watch in the following period of time. The ancient ancestor religion master wasn't someone who would swallow humiliation. Even his lair had been razed to the ground. This kind of person was the most terrifying because they no longer had anything to worry about. They could truly erupt with astonishing combat power, which would make people terrified. Once the Heaven Desolate Palace got the news of the ancient ancestor sect master, they would not let go of tracking him. In the end, there would be another shocking collision. A collision of mythical figures. Just thinking about it made people excited. Compared to a collision of this level, the collision between Yi Shiwen and the Heaven Desolate Palace was nothing. It could not be compared at all. Although Yi Shiwen was troublesome, he had not stepped into the mythical realm. Even if he had stepped into the mythical realm, he would not be able to be compared to the ancient ancestor sect master and other professional figures for a long time. The ancient ancestor sect master is not dead. In this case, the Heaven Desolate Palace will not let this matter go. I'm afraid that a large number of experts from the Heaven Desolate Palace will rush over soon. Bu Haomiao narrowed his eyes, looked at Yi Shiwen, and said. Everyone knew what he meant. The ancient ancestor sect master was still alive. If the Heaven Desolate Palace did not get rid of him, they would not be able to eat and sleep in peace. Therefore, a large number of experts would rush over. Among these people, Yi Shiwen had a huge grudge with the Heaven Desolate Palace. It wouldn't be difficult for any of these experts to kill Yi Shiwen in a casual manner. For Yi Shiwen, this was also a disaster. He was naturally in a good mood at this time. The guy who had made him lose face time and time again was finally going to die. Even if the experts of the Heaven Desolate Palace did not notice Yi Shiwen, he would help them notice Yi Shiwen's existence. Compared to the joyful expression of Bu Haomiao and the others, Bai Jiansheng and the others were undoubtedly very worried. Any one of the top experts of the Heaven-Desolate Palace was enough to completely destroy them. Brother Yi, otherwise, you can also leave first. Bai Jianqing said. What's wrong, Yi Shiwen? Are you afraid? Do you want to leave first? Bu Haomiao saw that Yi Shiwen seemed to be leaving and could not help but say. He wanted Yi Shiwen to stay. It was not his wish to let Yi Shiwen run away at this time. Yes, I didn't expect you to be so timid. Long Jinbei could not help but say. Yi Shiwen sneered slightly. Don't tell me I don't know what these people are thinking. They just don't want to expose it. He could not help but say coldly. I know what you were thinking, but Brother Bai, I really have no intention of leaving now. As for what you were worried about, I am also very clear about it. But you don't have to worry. I naturally have my means. They can't do anything to me. Yi Shiwen naturally had such confidence, and these people would not have thought that the ancient ancestor religious master they thought was actually a demon puppet controlled by Yi Shiwen. Having such a trump card was the fundamental reason why Yi Shiwen dared to stay here. With the protection of a legendary figure, even if it was not enough to sweep away all enemies, at least it was more than enough to protect himself. Brother Yi, don't you want to reconsider? Bai Jianqing was still unusually worried and said. Yi Shiwen could see that Bai Jianqing was sincerely concerned about him, and could not help but feel warm in his heart. Then he said, It doesn't matter if any clown dares to jump in front of me. I will pinch him to death. His gaze swept towards Bu Haomiao and the others, and it was obvious that he was talking about them. Bu Haomiao could not help but feel angry in his heart. A person who is about to die actually dares to challenge us. Fine, I won't bother to say more to you since you are about to die. These people were secretly angry in their hearts, but in their hearts, Yi Shiwen was almost a dead person. Who would be willing to be calculative with a dead person? It was not worthwhile to fight to the death like this. Let's not waste time now. The others have already entered the body of the tree ancestor. Are we going to watch them take away all the treasures? Mayer could not help but say. Everyone nodded one after another, and many figures had already directly rushed towards the huge body of the tree ancestor. Although the original spirit was already dead, the remaining flesh was also a precious treasure. One by one, everyone flew out. Suddenly, a huge mouth formed in the void. It was the mouth of a wood demon, and it bit down viciously. Of courting death. Situ Nantian sneered, and then smashed the big mouth on the spot with a loud bang. I'm afraid this is not a wood demon, but the wood energy in the sky has become a spirit under the influence of the tree ancestor's essence. Yi Shiwen could feel that this was not an ordinary wood demon, and it did not even have its own body. It seems that the path to the tree trunk will not be so simple. Bai Jianqing said. Along the way, everyone encountered all kinds of wood demons. They covered the sky and covered the earth, and they rushed over in groups, as if to protect the old ancestor's body. However, they were all easily killed by them. Yi Shiwen, be careful. I'm afraid they are using you as a shield. Mayer suddenly transmitted a message to Yi Shiwen. This made Yi Shiwen feel rather strange. He and Mayer basically did not have any friendship, so why did she actually warn him? However, there was no need for her to remind him. Yi Shiwen had already noticed that these people's plan was not so simple, and they seemed to be using him as a shield. Most importantly, they seemed to be delaying Yi Shiwen's advance. What exactly was the reason? Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. If these people want to plot against me, they will have to see if they have the ability to do so. Yi Shiwen said indifferently. However, you also have to be careful. These people are not ordinary people. Any one of them is an outstanding person at the peak of the profound death realm, and they have cultivated for thousands of years. Their strength is unimaginable. Mayer said, It doesn't matter. I can kill them effortlessly. What I really want to see is what they are planning. Yi Shiwen said indifferently. However, since they are not willing to reveal themselves, I will force them to show their trump cards. I want to see what kind of conspiracy they are planning. Mayer looked at Yi Shiwen in surprise. Even she could not treat the strength of Bu Haomiao and the other two lightly. What kind of trump card does Yi Shiwen have? He actually has such confidence. However, Yi Shiwen's body suddenly shook, and he directly displayed the Nanming Leaf fire, which burned a large area. Suddenly, his speed became much faster, and he went straight to the tree trunk. At this moment, Bu Hao Miao and the others finally became anxious. Suddenly, they exchanged glances and quietly surrounded Yi Shiwen. Chapter 2015. What do you guys want to do? Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, Yi Shiwen, don't blame us. You're the one who's too arrogant. Situ Nantian sighed and said, as if everything was forced by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen sneered and said, since you've become a whore, don't put up a chastity arch. If you want to kill me, you should have said so earlier. Don't talk as if I'm forcing you. That's right, Yi Shiwen. We're going to kill you. Who asked you to be so high-profile and arrogant? Bu Hao Miao's face revealed a hideous expression. Compared to Long Jinbei and Situ Nantian, the hatred between him and Yi Shiwen was as deep as the sea. Along the way, he was almost constantly humiliated by Yi Shiwen, but he did not dare to fight back, because he was not absolutely sure that he could take down Yi Shiwen. For a leader of a first-rate force like him, it was simply asking for his life. Sometimes face was not important, but sometimes it was more important than anything else. Just because you guys can't even enter the Powong realm for thousands of years? Yi Shiwen said with a sneer. Suddenly, the few of them flew into a rage. This was their Achilles heel, the Achilles heel hidden in their pride. No matter how many disciples and grand disciples they had, and how many people admired them, they could not change the fact that they could not step into the Powong realm. Perhaps for ordinary people, their cultivation was already the peak that they could never reach in their lifetime. But since they had already come here, who would really be satisfied? Who would be willing to stop at a reasonable point and stagnate like this? The few of us may not be a match for you alone, but you're definitely not a match for the three of us together. Moreover, the experts of the Heaven Wasteland battle team are about to arrive. They're a group of abnormal people, and you can't possibly be a match for them. As long as we can delay you for a while, it will be the time of your death. Long Jinbei said coldly, but there was a lingering fear on his face. Because among the three of them, he was the only one who had the experience of fighting with Yi Shiwen, so he was the only one who knew how terrifying Yi Shiwen was. Because of this, he was even more worried. So you've called for help. I was wondering why you dared to be so insolent. Yi Shiwen said indifferently. He did not panic at all, even though they had informed the Heaven Wasteland battle team. I think you really don't know what's good for you. The terror of the Heaven Wasteland squad is not something you can understand. Even with our strength, we can't hope to match up to them. Bu Hao Miao looked ferociously at Yi Shiwen and said with a delighted smile on his face, as if he could see Shiwen's blood. Thinking of those perverts and monsters, even he couldn't help but shudder. It was too terrifying. The few of you actually colluded with outsiders to deal with your own team members. Good. Bai Jian spoke angrily and anxiously. He'd always been a righteous and straightforward person, and it was because of this that he was able to establish such a great reputation that no one was unconvinced of. Yet at this moment, he'd been stabbed in the back by these three people, so how could he not be furious in his heart? Bai Jiansheng, if it wasn't for you siding with him all the time, would this have happened? Bu Hao Miao said. Bu Hao Miao, you're so shameless. Is it Brother Bai who is helping Brother Yi? You're obviously the one who is finding fault with Brother Yi. You can't beat Brother Yi, but now you're asking for help from outsiders. Shameless, Yun Ro said disdainfully. This made Bu Hao Miao even angrier. Shut up. Yi Shiwen will die today. If you dare to stop us, then don't blame us for being impolite. The human race of the ancient wasteland has some weight in our eyes, but it's nothing in the eyes of the Heaven Wasteland Palace. So I advise you to be tactful, lest you lose your life in vain. Bu Hao Miao said. Deep down, he was still fearful of the human race, which had a mythical figure overseeing them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such a thing. Ridiculous. Who do you think I am? How can I be associated with foul people like you? I must be blind to have made friends with you. If you want to touch Brother Yi today, you'll have to step over my dead body. Bai Jianxing shouted. Bu Hao Miao and the others were ashamed and angry at the same time. Their eyes were full of hatred. Good, good, good. Since you want to die, then don't blame us. Bu Hao Miao said in a cold voice. I didn't want to be so ruthless. But since you want to die, then don't blame anyone. He glanced at Mayor. Yunro and Yishan were nothing in their eyes. The only one worth paying attention to was Mayor. This fallen angel was simply unfathomable. Even he felt apprehensive about her. Brother Bai, step back. There's no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. You don't need to do anything. These jumping clowns are no match for me. Yishiwen stopped by Jiansheng and said indifferently, I already knew that you guys had bad intentions, but you showed your true colors after a little pressure. Do you think you can defeat me? The Heaven Wasteland Battle Squad came just in time. Haven't they been trying to kill me? I'm afraid there aren't many such elites in the Heaven Wasteland Palace. Let's see how distressed the Heaven Wasteland Palace will be, Yishiwen said with a faint smile. Sita Nantian and the others thought that Yishiwen was crazy after hearing Yishiwen's words. He wanted to fight with those abnormal monsters and slaughter them. He wanted to make the Heaven Wasteland Palace feel distressed. I think you must have lost your mind. Lunatic, those are all abnormal monsters. Do you want to compare yourself with them? Bu Hao Miao couldn't help but say in a loud voice. A summer insect can't talk about ice. A frog at the bottom of a well is looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. If you want to talk about abnormal monsters and the like, then I'm even more special than them. Yishiwen sneered and said, Cut the crap. Wait until I kill all of you. Then, I'll see how special those monsters are. Yishiwen immediately attacked. With a loud bang, his imposing aura spread out. His figure looked incomparably majestic, like an ancient divine mountain. In an instant, his palm directly slapped down, forming a monstrous palm momentum and ruthlessly falling towards Situ Nantian. Situ Nantian was the strongest among the three of them. He wanted to start with the strongest and defeat the strongest first. Countless starlight began to scatter in all directions from his big hand, forming a monstrous giant net. It was an inescapable net that even the heaven and earth were covered by the net. Yishiwen, don't be too arrogant. Situ Nantian saw that Yishiwen had casually used an earth-shattering move. He did not dare to be negligent and quickly attacked. He directly clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. The fist momentum was shocking and directly broke Yishiwen's palm. He repeatedly bombarded with powerful attacks in an attempt to break free from Yishiwen's hand. However, Yishiwen's big hand continued to press down and slowly trapped Situ Nantian. Damn it, how can he be so strong? Situ Nantian was constantly retreating. His eyes were constantly flashing with horror. He had never fought with Yishiwen before, so he couldn't truly understand how powerful and terrifying Yishiwen was. Previously, he thought that Long Jinbei was too weak. However, he no longer had such a thought now. It was not that Long Jinbei was too weak. It was clearly that Yishiwen was too strong. Attack! We can't let Brother Situ be suppressed by him. Bu Hao Miao shouted loudly. An astonishing blade light swept out and directly fell on Yishiwen's head. Long Jintian was not to be outdone. He grabbed with his dragon claw and released a monstrous aura. The entire heaven and earth seemed to have been transformed into a kingdom of the dragon clan. He also rushed towards Yishiwen. One on the left and one on the right, they surrounded Yishiwen and wanted to finish him off in one go. With these insignificant tricks of yours? Break it for me? Yishiwen did not even look at them. His other hand directly swept out. Whatever blade light or dragon claw, everything was smashed by his palm on the spot. The tyrannical strength of the gilded tyrant form was reflected incisively and vividly at this moment. What kind of physical body is this? How can it be so strong? Bu Hao Miao could not hide the horror in his eyes. He could even feel the astonishing counterforce from the smashed blade light. He's stronger than before. He's much stronger. Long Jinbei was even more shocked. As the only person who had truly fought with Yishiwen, he was the clearest about Yishiwen's strength. Although Yishiwen did not use his full strength at that time, he could still feel that Yi Shiwen was becoming stronger and extremely tyrannical from Yi Shiwen's ability to lift something heavy as if it were light. Originally, Yi Shiwen needed the help of the 5 emperors to suppress him. Now he was able to completely block the attacks of the 3 people in his normal state. Such progress was simply shocking. At this time, he was extremely regretful. If he had known earlier, he would not have allowed Yi Shiwen to grow. Otherwise, he would not have been so powerless to fight back. If they had joined forces to kill Yi Shiwen at the beginning, they would not be in such a situation even if they were injured. At the beginning, they still had a chance of winning. Now, they could only really delay for time and wait for the arrival of the Heaven Wasteland battle team. So strong! Maya was also a little shocked. Although she had always felt that she had overestimated Yi Shiwen's strength, she only realized that she had still underestimated him after seeing him. "Break all of them!" Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. He was naturally confident and confident in himself. After absorbing the endless wood qi, his strength had improved to a whole new level. Although he had yet to break through to the peak of the profound death stage, he had reached a whole new realm. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and turned it into a universe. All of a sudden, it directly blasted towards Situ Nantian. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of essence qi. This universe actually expanded against the wind and became bigger and more terrifying. It directly blasted down and destroyed everything. Chapter 2016. All of a sudden, Yi Shiwen erupted with astonishing strength and became stronger and stronger. He did not even intend to feign civility with them anymore. Even if he was confident that he could fight against the freaks of the Heaven Wasteland battle team, he did not want these people to hold him back at that time. Boom! Situ Nantian took Yi Shiwen's punch head-on. In a panic, he kept retreating, and every step he took caused the void to collapse. It was conceivable that he had to face the terrifying suppression of the power of Yi Shiwen's punch. He spat out a mouthful of blood. "Brothers, let's join forces. This guy is ferocious. If we can't hold him back, I'm afraid we'll all be killed by him. He's definitely going to die this time. No matter how ferocious he is, he's no match for the 3 of us. Moreover, as long as we hold him back, the experts of the Heaven Wasteland battle team will soon arrive. At that time, we'll have made a great contribution." Yi Shiwen's punch didn't feel good at all. In fact, they felt as if their internal organs were shaking, as if they were about to jump out of their bodies. Under such circumstances, the 3 of them didn't dare to delay and quickly joined hands. "So strong!" Yin Ro could not help but exclaim. "Brother Yi is so powerful. His future achievements are limitless, but he's a member of our Yi clan. In this unstable era of the human race, he might even be able to protect us in the future." This sentence involuntarily emerged in Yi Shan's mind. Brother Ye's growth and strength is simply earth-shattering. It's simply unheard of. However, I can't fall behind. These thousands of years of cultivation are absolutely not fake. Bai Jianxing was also deeply shocked by Yi Shiwen. We've all underestimated him. Seeing Yi Shiwen's invincible and ferocious appearance, even the most confident may or felt a little incredulous. "The 3 of you are just trash even if you join forces." Yi Shiwen took a step forward. His imposing aura swept across the sky, causing the world to change color. Countless laws floated up and completely destroyed the wood attribute laws, creating a world that belonged to him. Even amongst experts at the peak of the profound death stage, it was extremely rare for one to possess such shocking power. Furthermore, he was merely at the advanced profound death stage. This was the most frightening existence. The 3 of them could feel that Yi Shiwen's imposing manner had suddenly changed. He had become serious, and their complexions couldn't help but change wildly. Boom! He took a step forward, clenched his hand into a fist, and threw a punch. There were no extra movements, no fancy moves. There was only a monstrous fist force sweeping out in all directions, crushing down on the 3 of them. Boom! 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 The 3 of them retreated again and again in defeat under Yi Shiwen's offensive. They were simply not a match for him. Yi Shiwen's strength was much more terrifying than what they had initially thought. Yi Shiwen, you're really arrogant. You're too arrogant. Do you really think that I've lived up to my reputation for so many years? Sita Nantian screamed sharply. He had been forced into a dead end by Yi Shiwen, which forced him to go all out and attack with all his might. He let out a roar, and a scroll suddenly flew out from the tip of his heart, enveloping his entire body. This scroll was incomplete, and there was no complete picture of it. Even so, it was already extremely powerful. Yi Shiwen, be careful. This is Situ Nanshan's famous instrument, the Great Broken Yuan painting. It's a top-notch profound level weapon and very powerful. Bai Jianxing reminded him loudly. Even without Bai Jianxing's reminder, Yi Shiwen had also noticed that ever since the Great Broken Yuan painting appeared, Situ Nanshan's imposing manner had suddenly increased by a notch. Moreover, with the protection of the Great Broken Yuan painting, he was not afraid of Yi Shiwen's attacks. He could even find an opportunity to counterattack under Yi Shiwen's storm-like attacks. I'll fight you to the death today. You've only cultivated for a few hundred years, and you still want to compete with me. He let out a roar, and his eyes flashed with a frightening, ominous light. His body shook, and he took a step forward. The original body of the Great Broken Yuan painting appeared on his palm, and directly swept towards Yi Shiwen with a frightening light. It was like a ray of light that tore apart the darkness and stirred up the laws of heaven and earth in a frenzy. With the Great Broken Yuan painting, Situ Nanshan's strength was completely different. This was his real trump card. Without the Great Broken Yuan painting, Situ Nantian would only be a little more powerful than an ordinary profound death realm expert. However, with the Great Broken Yuan painting, Situ Nantian would be at the top of the profound death realm, and only half a step away from the Powang realm. A deathbed struggle. Yi Shiwen saw that the divine light of the Great Broken Yuan painting was directly sweeping towards him, and immediately sneered. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and did not evade it. A universe instantly formed around his body, and everything was contained in his universe. It even seemed that the entire ancestor tree's boundary would be included in his universe. Without any hesitation, he directly smashed towards the divine light of the Great Broken Yuan painting. Bang! The divine light was immediately smashed by Yi Shiwen's fist strength. What kind of body is this? How can it be so strong? Situ Nanshan's eyeballs almost fell out. He had traveled the world for thousands of years and had seen many strong physiques of various races, but he had never seen such a tyrannical one. Even the experts of the Dragon Clan at the same level as him would not dare to casually receive his Great Broken Yuan painting. However, Yi Shiwen did not evade it and used his fist to receive it. Such a body strength could be called shocking. Break for me. No matter what kind of monster you are, you will die today. Situ Nantian was at a loss. Even with his powerful means, he was unable to take down Yi Shiwen. This was simply unheard of and unseen. The Great Broken Yuan painting in his hand began to continuously sweep out earth-shattering divine light. One after another, it broke through the vast sky and shattered everything. In fact, such a fluctuation could even seriously injure an expert at the peak of the profound death realm. Now, all of them were heading towards Yi Shiwen. As he directly swept out these earth-shattering divine light, his entire body was shaking, and his face gradually became a little pale. These were all integrated with his essence blood, and their power was greatly increased. The Great Broken Yuan painting was indeed a top-notch profound weapon. Its power was simply unimaginable. You want to defeat me with this? You are still far from it. Without any hesitation, Yi Shiwen blasted out another punch. In an instant, the splashing fist energy in the void distorted crazily and pierced through everything. Before the divine light could hit his body, it was completely destroyed by his divine light. He walked forward step by step and continuously blasted out the Great Broken Star Fist with both hands. Its power was astonishing. Even the founder of the true martial school, who had created the Great Broken Star Fist, would have to admit defeat if he saw this set of fist technique unleashed such astonishing power by Yi Shiwen. In fact, this was a completely new set of fist techniques. In addition to the essence, the original intention of establishing this fist technique was still to uphold the shattered star fist. However, it had been reformed by Yi Shiwen on the inside and had been updated countless times. It was completely different from the original one, and its power was countless times greater. His fist energy constantly bombarded on the Great Broken Yuan painting. Originally, he could still fight back, but at this time, he had no strength to fight back. He could only continue to resist and could no longer fight back. Yi Shiwen strode forward and continuously blasted out the Great Broken Star Fist with both of his fists. Every time he blasted out a punch, the light curtain on the Great Broken Yuan painting would be cracked and fragments would fly everywhere. It was not Yi Shiwen's opponent at all. He was like a god walking in the human world, looking down on everything. Nothing was his opponent. The peerless overlord had resurrected in this world. Situnantion only felt that his whole body was trembling and cracking under the bombardment of the fist energy. However, there was no other way. Now, if Yi Shiwen were to bite them to death, they could not escape at all. They could only choose to fight a bloody battle. I don't believe that the three of us are still not your opponent, Situnantion constantly roared. Yes, the three of us have been unhindered in the Xian world for countless years. Even those legendary figures did not dare to treat us lightly and look down on us. Are we going to fall in the hands of this junior today? No, absolutely not. Long Sikhen gritted his teeth and let out a loud dragon roar. It was as if a wounded beast was constantly roaring. He constantly roared, and his whole body suddenly began to grow. He turned into a human-shaped giant dragon. He fully stimulated the dragon bloodline in his body. For a moment, his fighting strength increased crazily, and he constantly spouted dragon's breath towards Yi Shiwen in order to burn him alive. Die, Yi Shiwen, you will die in a little while. Situ Haomiao looked up to the sky and roared. At this time, he had also exhausted all of his strength. His whole body seemed to have transformed into a long blade, and it seemed as if it would break the world apart. He chopped down towards Yi Shiwen again and again. The three great experts had joined hands to turn the world upside down and crush everything. No one could stop them. Brother Yi, be careful. You can't win against these three people. Let me give you a hand. Bai Jianxing suddenly became very worried and quickly reminded Yi Shiwen. On the side, Mayor also quietly mobilized her own Jin Yuan. It was obvious that if Yi Shiwen had any problems, she would immediately intervene. It was unknown why she had chosen to stand on Yi Shiwen's side. I don't need your help. Watch me. I will show them that even if they join hands, they are still trash. Chapter 2017. In an instant, the power of the five elements was boiling on Yi Shiwen's body. The power of the five elements swept out in an instant and crushed everything. He was like a god of creation who was recreating the world, redestroying everything, and recreating everything in order to refine the five elements. The power of the five elements exploded out from his body. The five emperors were like five emperors descending upon him at the same time. His entire body instantly grew several times taller, and in the blink of an eye, he exploded with power that could shake heaven and earth. Bang! Under the crushing of the violent power of the five elements, the Great Broken Yuan diagram instantly shattered and turned into powder. Immediately after, the power of the five elements exploded and blasted down. Puff! Situnantion immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body flew out like a cannonball. A diagram scroll that carried the power of the five elements smashed on his body. He was hit by the five elements Qian Yuan diagram on the spot, and his entire body shattered on the spot. Although his Great Broken Yuan diagram was not bad, it was obviously far from a magic tool like the five elements Qian Yuan diagram. They were not on the same level at all. Moreover, there was a huge gap between his strength and Yi Shiwen's in the state of the five emperors. Then, all the blood essence in his body was directly absorbed by Yi Shiwen's transformation technique. Yi Shiwen's eyes flickered. The harvest in the ancestor tree's domain was too great. Not to mention the ancestor tree's heart. Just his strength alone had undergone an earth-shattering change. If he had just entered, he might have to use the state of the five emperors in order to be on par with any one of the three people. If he wanted to crush them, he would have to integrate one of the two martial arts incarnations to be able to do so. But now, the five emperors had just appeared, and the three people were already beaten to a pulp. They were not his opponents at all. In other words, under the situation where his realm did not change, his combat power had increased by more than one level, and his strength had made a huge leap. The benefits brought by the ancestor tree's heart were still not digested. This was his biggest harvest so far. However, there were thousands of thoughts flashing in his mind, and the movement of his hands was not slow at all. Immediately after, he punched Long Jinbei's body that was about to turn into a long dragon. Bang! That long dragon-like body couldn't block Yi Shiwen's punch. He was like a legendary dragon slayer warrior who could crush all the evil dragons in front of him. Pooh! Long Jinbei spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was sent flying like a cannonball. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Yi Shiwen wasn't this powerful when he fought with him previously. Even when the five emperors were added to his body, he was only barely able to suppress him by a bit, and at that time, he did not use his full strength, right? But now, even if he used all his strength, he was unable to withstand a single blow in front of Yi Shiwen, who was in the state of five emperors. He was not an opponent of the same level at all. He had actually become so powerful. At this time, how could he care so much? He hurriedly took a big stride forward, enduring the churning power in his body, and flew into the distance. Where are you going? Yi Shiwen sneered and directly transformed into the law idol. His entire body became as huge as a mountain in one breath, and he suddenly stomped his foot down. Bang! Long Jinbei was trampled into a cloud of blood mist in the sky. He exploded and was directly absorbed by Yi Shiwen. After devouring the blood essence of two experts at the peak of the profound death realm, his strength had increased by a small margin. He could feel that he was about to lose control of his strength. If he did not advance to the peak of the profound death realm, he would die on the spot. He could already feel where his limit was. No matter what, he had to try to break through to the Paoang realm. At this time, Sidu Haomiao, the only one who survived, hurriedly fled into the distance. Yi Shiwen naturally would not let him escape. He directly formed a seal, and an incomparably huge mountain appeared in the void. The Hanzhan seal suddenly smashed down. Bang! He was smashed on the spot. His entire back felt like it was broken, and he could only feel his vision turning black. However, he knew that he could not faint at this time. Otherwise, he would really be dead. He still rolled and crawled into the distance. Yi Shiwen took a step forward and was about to chase after him. Suddenly, he saw a violent fluctuation in the void. Then, he saw three figures directly piercing through the sky. They had directly teleported over. Each of these three figures possessed a shocking and terrifying aura. The entire void collapsed. When they jumped through the void, it had already been shattered by the aura on their bodies. These people's eyes were incomparably deep. At a glance, they were simply a group of monsters. Yi Shiwen fixed his eyes on the three figures. They were two men and one woman. One of them looked like a middle-aged man. He had a sturdy figure and looked valiant. The other was a young man. His entire body was shrouded in shadows, making it difficult to see him clearly. Although one could clearly see his face, one could not clearly see his strength. That was the aura emitted from his body. It distorted the space, and any divine senses that entered it would be completely annihilated. It was extremely powerful and terrifying. Beside him was the only woman among the three of them. She was dressed in a bright red outfit and had an enchanting figure. Her appearance was charming, but there was a hint of toughness on her face. Clearly, she was not someone easy to deal with. Although Yi Shiwen could tell that they were all at the peak profound death stage, the battle strength of any one of them far surpassed Sidu Nantian and the rest. They were people that could truly make Yi Shiwen feel threatened. The unique symbol of the Heaven Wasteland Palace on the three of them allowed Yi Shiwen to recognize them with a single glance. The Heaven Wasteland Squadron. Who else other than the Heaven Wasteland Squadron could appear here at this time? Moreover, they possessed terrifying experts that far surpassed the peak profound death stage. Behind Yi Shiwen, Yun Ro, Yi Shan, and the rest could also sense the powerful hell-like death god aura from the bodies of these three individuals, causing their faces to involuntarily turn pale. They were completely unable to imagine how the peak of the profound death stage could be this powerful. Bai Jiansheng could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. His gaze wavered indeterminately. Even he felt as if there was a blade on his back in the face of such powerful existences. He was afraid that even if he cultivated to the peak, he would only be on par with these people. However, he had cultivated normally, while the exuberant life force of these people told him that the three of them had most likely experienced extraordinary cultivation. This made him recall the legends of the Heaven Wasteland Palace regarding the Heaven Wasteland Squadron. They were truly a group of perverts and monsters. Compared to the cultivation they had experienced, the fighting and killing lives of ordinary cultivators and martial artists were basically like flowers in a greenhouse. They were true devils that had crawled out from hell, and were even more terrifying than the demon race. Every single one of them had crawled out from countless corpses. Furthermore, these corpses were not ordinary people. They were all genius-like existences in other factions. It was due to this kind of tempering that the Heaven Wasteland Squadron was able to become a sharp blade of the Heaven Wasteland Palace. Unless a legendary expert was involved, they were basically unstoppable. In the entire mysterious world, there were only a handful of elites that could match up to the Heaven Wasteland Squadron. He could not help but feel a chill run down his back at the thought of this. Compared to these monsters and perverts, young Master Gay Yun was nothing, and neither was young Master Skyfox. At least for now, these people could not be compared to the monsters and perverts of the Heaven Wasteland Squadron. Yi Shiwen, be careful. These are all experts of the Heaven Wasteland Squadron. Inside Bai Jiansheng's body, the Zhen Yuan faintly surged up. If it was before, he could still believe in Yi Shiwen and not intervene, but now he did not dare to be so relaxed and confident, because this time he really felt the threat of death, and he might die. Just this reason alone was enough. He would die. Mayer, who had always been calm and indifferent, didn't even flinch when Sitanantian unleashed his power. However, at this moment, for the first time ever, she started to be on guard. The space around her started to distort. It was clear that she was only half a step away from entering the alternate space. She was preparing for battle. Yun Ro and Yi Shan, on the other hand, were firmly suppressed by the imposing manner of the trio, causing their bodies to stiffen. They had already stepped into the profound death stage and had made rapid progress during this period of time. However, within the same great realm, they were suppressed by the imposing manner of others to the point that they could not move at all. One could imagine how great of a threat and how terrifying the trio was. Yi Shiwen? Among the trio, the young man looked at Yi Shiwen, who was at the forefront, with a somewhat playful expression on his face. You're that Yi Shiwen? Interesting. The game of cat and mouse is finally over. Now that you've fallen into my hands, it's all over. Yi Shiwen looked indifferently at the trio and did not speak. You're the pavilion master of the immeasurable blade pavilion, Bu Hao Miao? The woman looked at the heavily injured Bu Hao Miao and said with a somewhat disdainful expression. Evidently, she did not take Bu Hao Miao seriously at all. That's right, it's me. Facing the three abnormal and monstrous individuals of the Heaven Wasteland Squadron, even someone as arrogant as Bu Hao Miao did not dare to be negligent. Even if these people were his juniors, he still did not dare to be negligent. If Yi Shiwen had displayed such powerful strength from the beginning, he most likely would not have dared to argue with Yi Shiwen. Where's Sitanantian and Long Jinbei? Didn't you say that the three of you were together? The woman in red could not help but ask. Chapter 2018. They had received news that the three of them were together. Why was there only one of them at this time? Moreover, Bu Hao Miao seemed to be seriously injured. They were all killed by him. It was Yi Shiwen. If the three of you hadn't come in time, I'm afraid that even I wouldn't have been able to escape from his evil hands. Bu Haomiao looked at Yi Shiwen with a sinister expression. Being defeated by Yi Shiwen and almost killed was the greatest humiliation of his life. All of this was brought about by Yi Shiwen. He simply wished that he could skin Yi Shiwen alive, eat his flesh, and drink his blood. What? They were all killed by him. You are indeed a bunch of trash. The sturdy middle-aged man snorted coldly. Yang Zhentian, I told you that the people outside are all trash. Don't be fooled by their cultivation at the peak of the profound death realm. I can easily pinch them to death with one hand. The sturdy middle-aged man clearly did not spare a glance for Bu Haomiao and the others. It was as if he was looking at ants. Bu Haomiao's face turned red with anger, but he did not dare to lose his temper. This was because the three of them were not only his saviors, but more importantly, the three of them were also monsters. It would be as easy as blowing off dust if they really wanted to kill him. Offending such people was tantamount to courting death. Yin Rue, do you think that everyone can be compared to our Heaven Wasteland battle team? In the eyes of ordinary people, these people are already considered experts. The red-clothed woman said instead of the young man. Yinzi, that's true. However, they are really too trash. They had some reputation in vain, but they were actually killed by a little mouse like Yi Shiwen. Trash is just trash. The middle-aged man Yin Rue sneered and did not have the slightest intention to show any goodwill. Bu Haomiao's face turned red. He had no way to refute after being pointed at and called trash. He was also gnashing his teeth in hatred. However, he did not dare to hate the powerful monsters of the Heaven Wasteland battle team. Instead, he hated Yi Shiwen. If it wasn't for Yi Shiwen, he would not have fallen to such a state. He would not have encountered these monsters and been treated as trash. He had completely forgotten that if it wasn't for him constantly provoking Yi Shiwen and the desire to kill him, things would not have developed to such a state. As the saying goes, everything is determined by the heavens. Look up. Who has the heavens spared? Forget it. What's the use of saying this? Haha, we've been training in that hell all day. It wasn't easy for us to get out of that damn place by chasing this little mouse. Naturally, we should have some fun. The young man, Yang Zhentian, laughed out loud with a sinister smile on his face. When he thought of that place and the hellish training, even his already numb heart trembled. However, if he hadn't gone through such tempering, he wouldn't have been able to become so powerful. When he was in there, he didn't feel that he was a monster. But after coming out, he realized that the world was so big that he could do whatever he wanted. Those famous people were simply like paper tigers. He had heard of those people before he entered the Heaven Wasteland battle team, but they were casually killed by his sword. Such things had happened far too many times, and he slowly lost his respect for them. These people were just superficial. He was very clear that it wasn't that these people had become weak, but that they were too strong. They were abnormally strong. Among the batch of people who went in, he was the only one who came out alive. Therefore, he deserved to be strong, and it was reasonable for him to be above everyone else. Those so-called geniuses, what were they? They were just relying on their talent to cultivate. It was a waste of their talent. How could such a weak person have such a great reputation and be looked up to by countless people? Sooner or later, all of this will belong to me. He just glanced at Yi Shiwen for a while, and then didn't pay any attention to him. In his eyes, it was fine if Yi Shiwen was hiding well. Since he had caught him red-handed, then the outcome was already predictable. It was just a casual killing. Yes, these people are really weak. It's really boring. Yin Rue just sighed, as if he was tired of playing with those toys. Those extremely powerful existences, in his eyes, were no different from ordinary toys. There was no need to pay attention to them at all. No matter what, let's take his head first. Then, we will find a chance to have some fun before going back. At least this time, this trip was not in vain. Yinzi looked at Yi Shiwen's eyes without any ripples. Killing, for her, was already the easiest thing to do. It was as normal as eating and drinking. Training in that damn place, there was not a day when she didn't kill, and there was not a day when she didn't get killed. Everything was too normal. This time, leave the greatest credit to me. I will personally cut off his head. At this time, Yin Rue stepped forward and said, "You guys can just watch the show from the side. Speaking of which, Is it really worth it to send the three of us to deal with a little mouse? As long as any one of us takes action, he won't be able to escape. The headquarters is also doing this for the sake of safety. Moreover, this little mouse does have some ability. You see, didn't Situ Nantian and Long Jinbei die in his hands? Although they are both trash, to be able to kill them, this little mouse does have some ability. Otherwise, it wouldn't be our turn to take action. Yang Jintian said indifferently. His gaze towards Yi Shiwen was still filled with contempt, but it was like a lion. Even a lion would use all its strength to capture a rabbit. Although he looked down on Yi Shiwen, it didn't mean that he would be merciful. Then what about the people who are with him? Yanzi asked. Needless to say, these people are with Yi Shiwen. They are obviously on the same side. Just kill them all. Yen Rui stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. His eyes flickered with excitement. Being able to kill a fugitive finally made him a little excited. Yi Shiwen, since you can kill Situ Nantian and Long Jinbei, it means that you are not weak. Let me take a good look at you. Don't let me down. If you do, you will be very miserable. Yen Rui smiled sinisterly. You guys really want to fight with me? TSK, TSK. This is the first time I've seen the legendary Heaven Wasteland battle team. I think there shouldn't be many such elites in the Heaven Wasteland Palace. In the face of the earth-shattering pressure from the three experts, Yi Shiwen was not flustered at all. He merely took a step forward and completely destroyed the imposing manner of the three people. You do have some skills, Yanzi said with a chuckle. She was very charming, but there was a hidden killing intent in her voice. Of course he has some skills. It's more than just a few skills. Bu Haomiao could not help but tremble when he thought of the terrifying strength that Yi Shiwen had displayed earlier. The people of the Heaven Wasteland battle team were abnormal in his eyes, but Yi Shiwen was not much better. He was also abnormal among abnormal people, a monster in human skin. There would be a good show to watch when these abnormal monsters collided. Although he hated Yi Shiwen very much, he also hated the people of the Heaven Wasteland battle team, who wantonly humiliated his dignity. He could not wait for both sides to collide and be injured so that he could take advantage of it. However, at most, both sides would be injured. Although Yi Shiwen was ridiculously strong, how could the abnormal people of the Heaven Wasteland battle team be ordinary? Of course, to be able to become an official member of the Heaven Wasteland battle team, which one of them did not kill their way out of thousands of geniuses. Yen Rui's face was filled with pride. This was their greatest pride. In the eyes of the outside world, all of you are geniuses. You have even been selected for the nameless Tao College. But so what? In my eyes, all of you are just a bunch of weak little bunnies. Do you think you can be compared to us with the likes of you? Ridiculous, ridiculous. I see. It turns out that there aren't many elites like you in the Heaven Wasteland Palace. In this case, the Heaven Wasteland Palace would be distressed if a few of you died. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said with a smile. They saw him say these words indifferently, as if he was saying a greeting, but the content of his words completely shocked everyone present. Ha ha ha! Yen Rui could not help but laugh crazily. I haven't met such an arrogant person in a long time. The moment he heard the name of the Heaven Wasteland battle team, he was already scared out of his wits. It's not interesting at all. You're a little interesting. Kill a few of us? That's really funny. Do you know how many people we killed to stand out? How many so-called geniuses like you were among them? It's really funny. I'm sorry, speaking of killing, I don't seem to be that far off. The number of people who died in my hands is not less than 10 million, but at least 8 million. Among them, there is no lack of so-called geniuses, monsters, and abnormal people. Yi Shiwen only narrated indifferently, as if he was talking about something insignificant. This Yi Shiwen is really arrogant. He even dares to be so arrogant in front of the Heaven Wasteland battle team. But I'll see how you die later when you cry, Bu Haomiao said indignantly. At the same time, he was shocked by Yi Shiwen's confidence. Yi Shiwen, let's go. These three people are not ordinary people. The Heaven Wasteland battle team is not someone that you and I can deal with, Bai Jianxing hastily said anxiously. In his mind, Yi Shiwen had already reached his limit by dealing with one of them. After all, He was already a super abnormal monster. However, there were 3 of them at the same time. There was simply no way to resist them. Go? Where do you think you're going? No one has ever escaped from my hands. Yin Rue took a step forward. A monstrous aura swept out with a loud bang, firmly locking everyone in place. It was as if he wanted to kill them all. Escape? Are you talking about me? I've said it before. I also want to see if the Heaven Wasteland Palace will feel the pinch if a few of the Heaven Wasteland battle team die. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.